Hey guys, tonight we're not setting sail into the roughest waters history has to offer. No greasy pirates, no splintery ships groaning under bad decisions, and no parrots loudly repeating secrets they absolutely should not know. Nope. Tonight, we're wandering somewhere much quieter, much colder, and far more overlooked, inside the stone walls of medieval castles and the invisible souls who kept them alive. But before we slip past the gates, dodge the mud, and warm our hands near a smoky hearth, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy these slow, thoughtful journeys through history. And leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. Somehow, it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And honestly, 2 a.m. feels like the perfect hour to think about people who worked long before sunrise and slept long after everyone else had gone quiet. Now dim those lights. Turn on a fan for that soft white noise hum. Imagine it as wind brushing against cold stone walls. Get comfortable. Settle into your blankets and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because imaginary rats are planning anything tonight, but because medieval ones absolutely were, and they did not respect personal boundaries. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what really made a castle function? Not the kings, not the feasts, not the banners or armor or dramatic speeches from balconies, but the people you never hear about. The servants who hauled water up endless stairs. The cooks who worked before dawn and after dusk. The laundresses scrubbing clothes in freezing water. The stable hands, cleaners, guards, messengers, and laborers whose names were never recorded, but whose work kept the entire fortress standing. Tonight, with Sleepy Oogway as your gentle guide, we're stepping into their world, a world of aching backs, smoky rooms, cold floors, and routines that never really ended. A world where survival depended on teamwork, endurance, and the occasional quiet joke to make the day bearable. There will be struggle, there will be exhaustion, and yes, there will be moments of unintentional humor, because history is full of people doing their best under conditions that were less than ideal. So settle in, let your breathing slow, let the modern world fade softly away. Tonight, we honor the unseen hands that kept medieval castles running, patiently, tirelessly, and without applause. Now, let us begin. Chapter 1. Before the Hearth Goes Cold. The kitchen is vast, even when empty. Its stone walls stretch upward into darkness, blackened by centuries of smoke and soot. At this hour, before the castle stirs, it feels less like a place of work and more like a cavern carved by fire and time. The air is heavy and unmoving, thick with the layered scent of old grease, damp stone, and cold ash that never truly leaves. On the hard stone floor, near the fading warmth of a massive hearth, a young scullery maid lies curled on her side. Her bedding is little more than a rough burlap sack, its seams stretched thin, and its surface coarse against skin already chapped by cold water and lye soap. Inside, flattened straw offers only the suggestion of softness. It has long since lost its spring, pressed down night after night by exhaustion. Still, it is all she has, and she makes no complaint. The embers in the hearth glow faintly, dull red beneath a crust of grey ash. They no longer crackle. They no longer warm the room. They only linger, offering a last trace of heat before surrendering completely to the cold. She has positioned herself as close as she dares, knowing that when the embers die, the chill will deepen sharply. Around her, the shadows of heavy iron cauldrons loom large against the walls. They hang silent now, their blackened bellies streaked with residue from yesterday's stews and boiled bones. In the half-light, they resemble watchful giants, unmoving and indifferent. By day, they will be filled, stirred, scrubbed, and filled again. By night, they simply wait, just as she does. She wears a coarse wool tunic, grey and frayed at the edges. The fabric scratches faintly when she shifts, stiff from repeated washings that never quite remove the smell of grease. Her hands are tucked close to her chest, fingers curled inward for warmth. Even in sleep, her body guards what little heat it can keep. The kitchen is quiet, but not peaceful. Somewhere deep in the castle, a beam creaks as stone settles. A distant drip echoes from a forgotten corner. The hearth exhales one last breath of warmth, then grows dimmer still. The floor beneath her steals heat relentlessly, seeping into bones and joints with patient determination. She shivers, barely waking, pulling the sack tighter around her shoulders. There is no blanket, no pillow, just stone, straw, and habit. This is how the day begins for those no one sees. High above, in chambers lined with tapestries and feather beds, nobles sleep on, unaware of the small figure lying here beneath their meals, their warmth, their comfort. The castle will soon demand everything from her. Water hauled before dawn, pots scrubbed until hands burn, ashes cleared, fires coaxed back to life. But for this brief moment, she rests. The first hint of gray light creeps through the high, narrow windows set deep in the stone walls. It does not illuminate the room so much as soften the darkness, turning shadows into shapes rather than threats. Dust floats slowly in the air, catching the light like faint stars. The maid's eyes flutter open, not fully awake, not fully asleep. She recognizes the color of morning instantly. Her body responds before thought does. Muscles tense, breath deepens. The shivering subsides just enough for movement. Soon the hearth will roar again, not for her warmth, but for others. The cauldrons will swing. The kitchen will fill with noise, orders, and urgency. Her quiet existence will disappear into labor, unnoticed and unrecorded. But for now, in this cold, cavernous kitchen, with ash in the air and stone beneath her, she lies still for a few more heartbeats. An invisible soul, an unseen life, one of many who kept medieval castles running while the world above never learned their names. The gray light grows stronger. Chapter 2: The Watch of Shadows and the Lantern's Glow. Hey guys, welcome back to our leisurely scroll through the chaotic pages of history. Tonight, We're diving into something creepier than your high school locker room smells, the nightly escapades of a medieval watchwoman. Imagine her gliding through the dim-lit corridors of a castle. Yes, the very same castles that seem to have been built by someone who lost a bet with a rock quarry, and now resemble elaborate stone mazes meant for hosting guests who never actually wanted to attend a dinner party. But before we pull up our imaginary chairs to join her in the candlelit gloom, let's ponder some real head-scratchers. Have you ever wondered how many ghost stories this watchwoman had to endure while checking on every securely bolted oak door? Or how many times she wished for an upgrade from an iron lantern to one of those fancy electric candles to save her arm from swinging around all night? And let's not forget, what should she do when the dreaded sound of a squeaky floorboard ignites the horror of medieval existential dread? Spoiler, it's not like you can shrug it off as just the wind, when the wind sounds oddly like a disgruntled ghost in need of therapy. Congratulations! You've just woken up circa 1350, and the air smells like aged cheese mixed with a hint of something that might have been a dinner option yesterday. Quite the bouquet, I assure you. You find yourself shadowing a lone watchwoman, draped in a woolen cloak that looks suspiciously like the leftover fabric from an overzealous crafting session. She moves through dark, arched corridors of the castle, her soft leather shoes gliding along the chill of the cold stone floor, making less sound than a mouse tiptoeing past a sleeping cat, if such a fantastical event were ever to occur. As she carries her small iron lantern, flickering desperately for attention, the glow casts a warm yet timid pool of light at her feet. Wouldn't we all love a trusty lantern that flickers harder than an overstimulated candle at a birthday party? The shadows behind her stretch and curl, seemingly longing to hold on to those wandering spirits that never made it to the great banquet hall of history. Truly, the shadows are dramatic characters in their own right, whispering sweet nothings of fear into the hearts of unsuspecting peasants who dared to cross their path. Now, let's talk about the tapestry-laden walls. They shiver in the drafts with all the grace of a terrified cat encountering a bathtub. Each heavy fabric is an unspoken reminder of how remarkably unprepared medieval life truly was. Imagine hanging your fine linens, and voila! Suddenly, they're guiding drafts like an overabundance of poorly planned air conditioning. Instead of cozy, warm feelings of home, you've got the shivers, an unfortunate byproduct of hanging beautiful, yet absurdly inconvenient tapestries that nobody wants to clean. Who knew fine art could also be a wind tunnel of misadventure? With her calm focus, the watchwoman checks the heavy oak doors, ensuring every bolt is secured, a process that's about thrilling as watching paint dry, but infinitely more critical. Just imagine her inner dialogue. Ah yes, bolt number 37. My old nemesis. Have you let in any uninvited guests since last week? No? Just a few mice? Goodness gracious. What will I tell the Lord if I lose track of my silent guests? It's an existential crisis wrapped in a cloak of truly boring duty, one lingering suspicion at a time. Suddenly, the air grows tense as she feels the breath of the chilly draught wafting through the castle. It's as if the castle itself is breathing, letting out a groan upon waking. Between the whispers of the drafts and the soft creaks of the wooden beams, you might start thinking that you've stumbled into a bad horror film. Is that a ghost? She wonders. Or is that just my imagination running wild? It's been a long night, and I probably shouldn't have eaten that 3-day-old haggis. Lesson learned. Vintage medieval cuisine isn't exactly friendly after sundown. Being a watchwoman is not all fun and games. This lady has no time for nighttime pranks, unless they involve mischievous squirrels trying to convince her to drop her lantern and join an acorn-picking party. Instead, she silently tackles the darkness with nothing but a flickering lantern, too dim for a decent Instagram aesthetic, and determination forged in the fires of long shifting hours and lukewarm tea. Just stay alert. You'd think a castle would be boring at night, she mutters under her breath. But oh, how quickly the mind begins to wander. The rocks that her feet feel each night below her, the very stones that have witnessed 1,000 tales of chivalry, laughter, and late-night bickering over forgotten debts and ridiculous court decisions. Each creak of the ancient structure feels like the laughter of long-dead nobles echoing through time, certainly more entertaining than her current watch. And just as she thinks she's heard a laugh in the darkness, something moves. A whisper of fabric, a soft pad of footfall. Her heart races. Is it her imagination, or has the castle finally decided to throw its Herculean weight around? Maybe it's just a local cat looking for a late-night snack, plotting its takeover of the castle pantry. A furry revolution waiting in the wings. Who needs historical accuracy when you have fluffy anarchy? As the night rolls on and she continues on her long watch, each step is a soft reminder that in this stone fortress, even the shadows weave their own stories. With a calm yet slightly absurd flair for life, she ensures that the castle sleeps soundly, unaware of the whimsical adventures occurring just beyond the weary oak doors. So, whether you find yourself draped in a woolen cloak of your own, or barricaded by imaginary midnight marauders, take solace in the humor of the night. Because sometimes, casting shadows into the darkness can be the most entertaining tale of all. And if you ever wake up to the sound of squeaky floorboards, just remember, it's probably just the castle trying to tell you a good night's story. Or perhaps a tale of chaos in the twilight, where nothing is truly what it seems. Now, as you drift into sleep, let the gentle embrace of the medieval night wrap around you, welcoming you into the charming absurdity of history. Sweet dreams, sweet. Chapter 3. The gritty chill of barefoot ambitions. Ah, the medieval courtyard. Imagine, if you will, a scene so chilly and damp it could put your old fridge to shame. Here you stand, well, sit, as our brave and barefooted servant girl gathers her damp kindling under the ghostly silhouette of a looming castle. It's 1350, and while you might be curled up in your cozy slippers right now, she's blissfully toe-dipping in a bath of regret on the jagged, wet flagstones. If frostbite were a competition, she'd be winning gold right about now. The edges of wooden crates and barrels hug their frost as tightly as a grandma loves unsolicited family photos. It's not just chilly, It's reminiscent of those icy winter mornings when you leap out of bed to a life fueled solely by caffeine and denial. The wind, mischievous and mysterious, whisks through the arrow slits overhead like a conductor leading a symphony of shivers while simultaneously delivering a waft of wood smoke from somewhere, just far enough away to feel like a tease. As you breathe in the sentient chill of the night, you might wonder, who's feeding the castle inhabitants? Do they get midnight snacks? Is it more porridge? Or is there a secret medieval pizza they didn't include in the cookbooks? And what about our poor barefoot friend? Does she have a spare pair of shoes? Or is she still hoping her numbness is just a passing fancy? While you ponder these profound questions, like a philosopher trapped inside a soggy potato sack, let's talk about risk management. In this era, any night that doesn't end with you waking up in a fever dream induced by the biting cold is considered a personal triumph. Surviving was artsy in its own right. Oh, darling, I woke up in the frosty death grip of a medieval courtyard and lived to tell the tale. But wait, let's not get too carried away. Every flicker of light in either of those stolen torches brings forth the question, what in the realm of medieval madness does one actually do at a castle in the dead of night? Gather your kindling, light the fire, for practically everything seems to run on firewood, and in an age without Amazon Prime, let's just say a delivery service conjured by a medieval wizard would have had the best business model. Speaking of kindling, Our Lady of Frostbite may be faced with a comedy of errors. Imagine her shimmying in piecemeal rag garments that do little to shield her from the frosty nips. It's a historical trend. Imagine wearing a turtleneck crafted from despair while trying to gather kindling in a puddle. Should she wear tall boots? No, because tall in the medieval lexicon meant hoping to never walk again after every step. And here you thought fashion faux pas was reserved for today's Instagram influencers. As she rummages through muck resembling last month's leftovers, you realize that trash isn't just trash. It's an opportunity. Every nightly competition needs cliffhangers, and this one's called, Will She Find Enough Dry Wood Before Morning? It would make for an exhilarating episode of Survivor Middle Ages Edition. Yet underneath the whirlwind of laughter lies a sobering truth. Our barefoot heroine isn't alone. The entire castle is a hub of hard-working souls, surviving the unspeakable cold and the unfathomable smell of turnips, which you'd think would have a brand ambassador by now. The nobles up above might be toasting by the hearth, while our girl shivers without even a whisper of gratitude or a woolly blanket thrown her way. And what about the grand plans for a lovely evening meal? Fat chance. If the fancy nobles are enjoying any semblance of a feast, it's thanks to the kitchen staff meticulously whipping up a concoction based on several most questionable ingredients. All while our girl dreams of a slice of bread that may never arrive. It's like the medieval version of a terrible surprise party. You're underdressed, underfed, and thoroughly underappreciated. The reality is far grittier than anyone ever dares to admit. So, how does our night transpire? Does the wind howl like a disgruntled jack-in-the-box as everyone else cozies up in their cloaks? Indeed, it does. Gather round, dear listener, and tune into the charming chaos of castle life. Because in the end, whether you're gathering damp wood in your bare feet or recounting the disasters of history, one essential truth rings through. At least you're probably lying in a bed, no matter how difficult it is to be comfortable. Life as a humble servant girl in a medieval castle? It's like a never-ending game of dodgeball with frostbite. So unrefined, but at least you have the memories, the laughter, and a highly questionable sense of humor to get you through the night, to get you through. Chapter 4. Flames, Fumes, and Flustered Cooks. Hey guys, welcome back to our little historical journey, where each night we embrace the strange absurdities of the past more earnestly than a squirrel hoarding acorns for winter. Tonight, we dive into something toastier than a marshmallow at a campfire. That's right, the chaos of a medieval kitchen. Picture this. You're navigating a world where the most reliable source of warmth is a flickering hearth, the heart of every home, and dare I say, the original it spot for cozy gatherings and burnt thumbs. While you're snuggled up under your electric blankets tonight, our maid in training, the one mastering the mystical art of flame coaxing, has found herself in a world where every day is an Olympic event of survival. Need a snack? Good luck fishing your way through a medieval refrigerator. Spoiler alert, it's a pantry sketchy enough to make you question your life choices. By the way, before we journey further into the fiery depths of our medieval tale, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe drop a comment about your absolute favorite medieval dish. We know it's probably not medieval turnips, but only if you actually enjoy this. You don't have to, if you'd rather spend your time figuring out how to microwave your leftovers. Now, let's dim the lights a little more. Put on a fan for that refreshing medieval hearth ambience, and get comfortable as we wander deeper into this kitchen saga. Ever wonder what it's like to cook like a medieval peasant? Does the smoke swirl just right for that dramatic flair? How about the aroma of well-roasted turnips? Or is it more like burnt offerings to the gods of flavor? Remember, in this hilarious time, you're not just energetically throwing flour around. You're dodging falling pragmatism while praying no one collapses from smoke inhalation. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350, right in the kitchen of a medieval castle, where the warmest place feels like it's alive, probably with a few too many unsavory aromas of charred what-have-yous. The maid, there she is, on her knees, like she's proposing to a particularly obnoxious log that just won't light up. She gently blows into the embers, and whoosh! Sparks leap and twirl up the chimney like they're auditioning for a poorly scripted fairy tale, while she entertains very real thoughts about setting her hair alight. Now, let's talk about that light. This illumination is both a blessing and a curse. The hearth's glow reveals an impressive display of kitchen chaos. Thick wooden tables crammed full of forgotten pots and pans piled high, copper cookware gleaming like medieval disco balls, and that one odd cup that no one dares ask about. Was it used for porridge? Is it still in service after that unfortunate pea soup incident from last Tuesday? Who knows? Imagine the air, thick and stifling, wafting with the heady combination of pine resin and slightly charred desperation. You think you have strong coffee brews that fill your soul with warmth? Well, try pulling off a medieval kitchen concoction. The process feels as intricate as crafting the perfect social media post, with half the ingredients missing or evolving into something completely different by the end. As our maid desperately instructs the logs to begin their literal glow-up, subtle splinters from the rough-hewn wood lounge lovingly against her fingers, leaving behind a beautiful display of medieval manicures. Oh yes, if you were hoping for elegant, polished nails, think again. This is a style where the motto is, I'd rather have burning embers on my fingertips than a salon in sight. We can see the influence of medieval high fashion seeping through here. And there's more. Occasionally, she glances over her shoulder to see the chaos behind her. Large sacks of flour resting suspiciously, half the size of a resident house cat. You'd think they'd mix a little spell of stay upright, as they're less reliable than the average medieval dating profile. No one ever warned her that lifting heavy bags of meal would also come with the occasional duet of, ow, why did I agree to this? Now, imagine stirring a pot of bubbling something suspicious, definitely not chocolate pudding, while trying to ignore the delightful and pungent collection of kitchen odors that waft through the air. Right next to that mysterious pot is a pile of what was at one point a vegetable. Now, however, it resembles a horror story stewing in a bowl. It's like your fridge on a Monday morning after a long weekend. What's that doing there? You could have sworn it was alive last week. Amid igniting a flame like a medieval magician, our maid tries not to think of the nobles upstairs reveling in feasts beyond her wildest dreams, while she's here dragon-slaying that stubborn wood like she's playing an endless game of whack-a-mole with splinters. And for all her efforts, let's not kid ourselves, she's far more likely to invent the world's first charcoal facial than an actual meal. Let's not forget the chatter of other kitchen hands, frantically jostling through a space that resembles a battlefield. Forget a harmonious kitchen orchestra. This place is more like a comedic tragedy, where everyone is racing against the clock, trying to stay slightly ahead of an impending disaster that's just a potato peel away. Now we take a step back and reflect. While you're drifting off into a peaceful slumber, consider the sheer absurdity of it. Here's our poor maid, a fiery architect of roasted goodness, forever at the mercy of charred logs and unappreciative noble patrons upstairs who think her only job is to keep their wine glasses full. Little do they realize that a hasty mug of eau de burnt is lurking around every corner, with potatoes flinging themselves into the air as if staged for a theatrical performance. Ah, yes, the life of a medieval kitchen maid, chaotic, comical, and always one splinter away from a trip down the rabbit hole of culinary disasters. But remember, beneath the smoke and charred splendor, she weaves a wonderful tapestry of life's rich absurdities, one flicker of flame at a time. Dear friends, even when faced with endless wooden battles and overripe vegetables, at least we can all share a chuckle together. Because in every fiery conflict,
There's humor, warmth, and the sweet promise that one day you might not be preparing meals in a castle kitchen of horrors.
Chapter 5: Buckets, Breaths, and Burdens. Hey guys, welcome back to our historical adventure, where tonight we embark on a journey wetter than a 5-day rain in the English countryside. That's right, dear friends, we're diving headfirst into the icy waters of medieval life. It's about to get so chilly, you might feel like you're living inside a particularly unwelcoming ice cube. Tonight, we'll be stepping into the shoes, or perhaps the soggy wooden clogs, of a certain medieval maid, one tasked with hauling water in a world where hydration means risking frostbite. Ever found yourself thinking, wow, this 5-gallon water jug is heavy? Well, congratulations. You're about to experience weightlifting without the benefit of a gym membership or post-workout protein shake. While you oscillate between giggles and sleepiness, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment about your wildest bucket-carrying challenge. But only if you actually enjoy. No pressure. Now, let's dim those lights and summon the cozy ambience of a medieval courtyard. Imagine the cool air briskly whipping about your ankles, where your wool skirts, stiff and damp, claim uncomfortably against your legs. And in this authentically chaotic life, you can ponder some burning questions. How on earth did they handle personal hygiene without running water? Did they ever regret their life choices after a particularly overwhelming bucket trip? Or perhaps you've pondered what it feels like to be a medieval horse transported over cobblestones. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350, the year where our friend the maid is wrestling with those 2 heavy wooden buckets of water, each one a splashy, slippery ventriloquist dummy of sorts, in an awkward stand-up performance titled Water, the Sequel. As the sun gingerly peeks over the stony ramparts of the castle, you see her, a brave, unsung heroine of this medieval fairy tale, silhouetted against the murky mud of the courtyard. She's like a lumberjack, but instead of an axe, she has a thick wooden yoke resting precariously across her slim shoulders, digging in just enough to make her contemplate an entirely new career of professional heavy lifter. If only they had influencer status back then, she could have launched a fitness line titled Sturdy Shoulders. The courtyard, dear friends, is more swamp than solid ground, a charming mix of mud and hay that seems to say, welcome, watch your step, or you might join the Mud Pie Club. Every step of our maid's pilgrimage to the dark stone circle of the well is met with squelchy, soggy noises, decidedly unfit for the noble patrons upstairs, who presumably have their feet up and are nibbling delicacies that she could only dream of. The well itself stands like a dark sentinel, a rusted iron crank sitting atop it like a grumpy old man refusing to help you move. You chuckle, you can practically hear it creaking, "Get off my lawn," every time the maid pulls on the rope, an act that not only requires her strength, but dares to wrestle with the odds of physics and a predilection for bad luck. What goes in must come out. That's the motto she lives by. Except instead of a snack or a nice nap, It's the cold, unsettling embrace of a stone circle filled with more foreboding than a soap opera cliffhanger. In this world, the morning air carries a peculiar aroma, almost like half-dried turnip mixed with a hint of horse sweat from the nearby stable. Speaking of horses, as you catch a glimpse of the stable hand leading a magnificent creature toward the gates, you can't help but think, even in all its magnificence, that horse does not want to be seen like this, with breath billowing out in thick white clouds, looking more like it just wandered off from a winter photo shoot for a medieval magazine. As our maid struggles to maintain her grip on the buckets, she can't help but feel like a juggler in a circus of misadventures. Why couldn't there be an easier way, like when a stallion gallops past, offering a lift? Instead, she settles for the clattering of buckets sloshing water over her skirts as she whispers promises to the cold liquid. Chill out. It's not my fault you weigh more than my life choices. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the landscape of her struggles. The cold, dampness creeping up her legs mingles with the grass and mud oozing between her toes. Imagine a foot massage that feels more like a medieval foot trap. Meanwhile, the yoke digs into her shoulders like a bad backache vying for first place on an awards pedestal alongside most bedraggled peasant. Did I mention the painstaking hustle of hoisting these buckets? Each one is more like an unwelcome invitation to a mud wrestling match, leaving her feet to squish farther into the muck. Ever tried to walk gracefully in flip-flops through a mud pit? Yeah, she's doing that, except she has a couple of hefty wooden buckets swinging awkwardly by her sides. As she pulls up a bucket, the well audibly sighs, groaning in what can only be portrayed as an ancient dialect of, "Get a grip, lady," but with the determination of someone who'd probably offer up more than just water if it meant a hot meal at the end of the day. She manages to yank it free. The rush of cold water sloshing out feels like a splash zone at a medieval amusement park nobody ever asked for. Resting those precious buckets against her sides, she takes a moment, letting the chill of the water seep into her memory. With each heave and strain, it's a little bit of an invitation to the superpower of complaining, an entirely underrated marvel of the human spirit. Yet somehow, through all her endeavors, you know she finds the humor in it. Like a medieval superhero, she trudges on, wide-eyed, maybe a tad damp, and forever on a quest for warm socks. There, in the courtyard filled with muck, awkward horses, and clunky wooden buckets, she mirrors your own evening thoughts after one too many Netflix binge sessions, wondering if this all counts as cardio. So as our maid braves the elements and the burdens borne by those who keep the castle running, take solace in knowing that even the grandest castles were built on the shoulders of determined individuals, carrying more than just water and stories, endless humor, irony, and the conscious choice to give every single bucket her very best. Chapter 6. A stirring action in the castle kitchen. Hey guys, welcome back to our historical escapade, where tonight we step into a realm smoother than a knight's polished armor, but undoubtedly more chaotic, the castle kitchen. Now, get ready to experience something so steamy It makes your bathroom mirror after a hot shower look like the Sahara Desert. Yes, tonight we're unraveling the day-to-day hustle of a medieval maid, who, if she had any social media presence, would probably earn like 100,000 TikTok followers for her epic stew pot scrubbing skills. But before we plunge into the boiled broth of her life, let me gently encourage you to like this video, subscribe, and maybe even comment your most inventive ways to scrub a pot. If you're into that sort of thing, of course. No pressure, just a friendly nudge from your daily dose of mildly interesting history. Now, as you sink into your comfy chair or drape yourself in your snuggliest blanket, preferably without any lumpy hay or goat smells, think about this. Ever tried cleaning a pot the size of a small well? Does the idea of using sand sound more like a questionable trust exercise than a legitimate cleaning method? How about the scent of lye? Does that inspire thoughts of a relaxing spa day, or just a rash? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350, the year when grease and grime were considered a delicacy, but only for the cooks' aprons, not their reputations. So here you are, in the heart of a medieval castle kitchen, an atmospheric symphony comprised of sizzling meats, the sweet aroma of overcooked vegetables, and a penchant for humidity that could rival a rainy day in your own kitchen. Standing in this bustling hive of activity, you see our maid, the brave, unseen force behind the grand meals that grace the Lord's table. Imagine her standing over a massive iron stew pot, a true testament to both her commitment and her resilience. Now, this pot isn't just any pot.
It's more like an ancient cauldron that seems to mock her existence, whispering, "You can't escape me," as she scrubs the interior with a gritty handful of sand and gray ash. It's like trying to delete old regrets from your mind, but instead, you're left with hands that feel like they've been sandpapered by a vengeful carpentry project. As she circles the pot, her knuckles raw and red against the abrasive metal, steam rises vigorously from a nearby basin, swirling around her like the ghost of meals past. Each puff of steam mutters its own tales of burnt offerings and unfulfilled culinary dreams, reminding her that this industrial-size cooking vessel is no ordinary contraption, but the oven to her laborious love story, with each potful a memoir of her grit and grease. Imagine the cacophony in the kitchen, pots clanging, servants bustling around like caffeinated squirrels, and the unmistakable thud of something heavy hitting the wooden floor, quite possibly the last remnants of that roast that was destined to become a meal 3 days ago. Meanwhile, our maid's muscles ache as she leans into the scrub, calling on every ounce of fortitude she possesses, similar to when you attempt your own workout routine. You know, the one you resolved to keep through the winter, but ended up just watching from the couch. The kitchen is alive, filled with the sounds of animated discourse, each servant exchanging tidbits of gossip, just like chatty co-workers by the office coffee machine. Only here, the stakes are slightly higher, and the pots significantly greasier. Undoubtedly, some energetic kitchen apprentice is flirting with the baker, who in turn looks as if he could easily bench press a sheep, all while tossing in flour like he's at a medieval rave. Flickers of candlelight illuminate the thick, smoky air that clings to the walls,
like the regrettable decisions made on a Friday night. Ashen cheeks, ever so slightly singed from the fire, glow like searchlights, desperately navigating through the thick haze of kitchen chaos. Each servant moves with purpose, nearly invisible to nobility, yet absolutely essential. Ah, who needs knights when you have these determined souls, battling daily to keep the fortress running? As our maid digs deep into the depths of the pot, attempting to conquer every trace of burnt grease, even the remnants of a meal that now feels like an ancient artifact, the reality of her scrubbing becomes evident. It's less of a chore and much more of a full-contact sport. Maybe there's a reason why pot wrestling never made it into the nightly tournaments. Can you imagine? It would definitely be the most entertaining event of the season. Even the lords would set their goblets down to witness. But let's share some perspective. Ever tried to wash a pot that feels like it's been in a relationship with grease since before your great-great-grandparents were born? That definitely deserves an award in determination. She heaves and twists, her nails digging into the metal, producing a sound akin to a cat's discontented meow as it struggles to escape a shower. Or perhaps that's just her spine protesting. Each time she wrestles with that accursed spoon-shaped weapon of culinary war, the servants shift through the kitchen in a dance of clattering lighter than a chivalric duel gone awry. It's truly a stunning sight, like the world's most chaotic ballet, minus the tutus, and with a heavy dose of smell that could rival a mackerel market on a humid day. And yet, through all the toil and the scent of charred casserole nostalgia, our maid endures. With a huff, she considers the oddity of her existence. Here she is, mucking around with a grubby pot, while aspiring for nothing less than gastronomic excellence in a life that often feels like one big cookbook of mistakes. Talk about setting the bar low. So, as the steam rises and laughter echoes, and let's face it, that churning pot may just be the central character in their grand theater of absurdity, take a moment to appreciate the grit that goes into keeping a medieval castle running. After all, beyond the stone walls and polished hallways lies a spectrum of humor, heartache, and the unyielding pursuit of cleanliness in a world where soap is as mythical as unicorns. As our maid continues her laborious yet oddly comedic quest, remember that even greatness often starts with a scrubbing brush and a determination to not let a pot get the best of you. Chapter 7. A Scullery of Steam and Shadows. Hey guys, welcome back to another delightful dive into the annals of mildly interesting history. Tonight's adventure, sure to tickle your funny bone while lulling you into the peaceful realm of slumber. Imagine this. You're about to enter a place so filled with delightful disasters that it could make your own kitchen mishaps feel like hosting a Michelin-starred dinner party. Yes, welcome to the scullery of a medieval castle, where the aroma of burnt stew and the faint echoes of a rat's scurry become your lullaby. But before you get cozy amidst the clattering of pots and ambiguous food-related steam, just a friendly reminder to like this video, subscribe,
if you enjoy our quirky jaunts through history, and drop a comment to let us know your wildest kitchen nightmare. Only if you actually want to, of course. No pressure. Now, let's dim those lights a bit, put on a fan for dramatic effect, and get snuggly. Hopefully not like our medieval
Maid who finds herself shoulder deep in dishwater that would make even the most seasoned plumber grimace. Picture yourself in 1350. This is a time when cleaning products ranged from ashes and sand to, well, whatever gets stuck to your neighbor's goat. How's that for an update on your local supermarket? Imagine this. Have you ever stared down a mountain of dirty dishes after a birthday party, considering that the easiest solution might involve setting them all ablaze? Or the sensation of scrubbing pans with a desperation usually reserved for late-night taco runs? Congratulations, friends. You've just woken up in the late Middle Ages, a time when hygiene was a suggestion, not a rule. Now, as we enter the scullery, a charming little slice of chaos, picture this. It's a cramped room filled with steam and shadows, merging together like an uninvited guest at a family reunion. In this bustling pixie dust of dirt and clatter, stacks of wooden trenchers and ceramic bowls pile haphazardly on benches that may well have been cursed by a clumsy sorcerer. Imagine for a moment you find yourself rubbing your eyes as a single narrow window, encrusted with soot, layer thicker than a medieval guide to bad decisions, begrudgingly lets in a dim, sickly light. It's like a Victorian child's nightmare, if the Victorian child were Odysseus trying to escape a room full of tripping hazards. Beneath a heavy table, a rat scuttles past a discarded bone, quite possibly the lost relic of a former stew's glory. Truly a Yelp review no one asked for. The walls here are damp stone, glistening with condensation, shimmering like a knight's armor, except in a less heroic way, more like a knight who forgot to bring a towel to battle. The maid stands center stage in this tempest, her back curving under the weight of the world as she lunges for another pile of dirty dishes. One has to admire her commitment. She's like the only contestant in a reality TV show called Extreme Dishwashing, the Medieval Challenge. Amid the orchestral clinks and clanks of the kitchen chaos, it seems our maid handles her tasks with a kind of grace that can only come from years spent in the trenches of culinary combat. As she gently lifts a ceramic bowl, a whiff of something evaporates into the air. Quite possibly last week's vegetable soup, now trying its best to stage a comeback, but instead choosing the less glamorous path of becoming airborne mist. The kitchen here has a life of its own, a swirling eddy of cringe-worthy scents and sounds that would have any modern health inspector running for the hills. And it's alive with commotion, like a crafting session with your 5-year-old, utterly chaotic and probably concerning the moment you notice a little too much glue on the table. Let's say the clattering of pots adds a soundtrack reminiscent of a band of enthusiastic squirrels getting into a spice rack. And poor maid, she puts her heart into scrubbing that enormous pot that looks like it was used to cook soup for the entire village, with enough leftovers to create a bit of a greasy monument
to lost culinary hopes. Ever tried to clean something that seems to have developed a personal vendetta against you? It's like that moment when your smart device decides it can't recognize your voice mid-podcast. The agony of fighting the inner side of that infernal pot, with sticky remnants as loyal as a childhood toy, must feel like preparing for a battle against your own kitchen's innermost chaos. As she wrestles with the interior, steam rises vigorously, wrapping her in a cozy shroud of half-hearted warmth. Almost a pity the heat doesn't bring with it good outcomes. Each puff of steamy exhalation carries whispers of burnt offerings and melancholic dreams gone awry. Can you picture it? Every press and twist feels like an existential proof of her grit and determination. She jumps back a bit, startled, as the pot belches out vapor. Unbeknownst to her, this is just its way of loudly proclaiming, "Excuse me, I've been hard at work too." The sound of laughter from the other servants trickles through the damp air, a reminder that even amid this wild effort, humor prevails. Some kitchen apprentice is flirting with the bakery clerk, tossing around witty repartee about flour as if discussing the latest nightly tournament. If there were awards for kitchen antics, they'd triumph every time. There's a certain absurdity in the blend of silliness and labor, much like your attempts to impress at a potluck. And yet, through the toil that deserves a standing ovation, the maid finds herself unyielding. Perhaps she reflects on the irony of her existence, that here she stands, elbow deep in the dishwater of history, scrubbing battle-worn pots, while the lord of the castle feasts on a meal prepared for nobility, all without realizing the chaos bubbling beneath his polished table. Yes, definitely something you could make a meme from. So, breathe in that steam. Let that lamp flicker softly in the dim light. And know this: behind every grand meal and magnificent feast lies a playful yet gritty scullery of unseen heroes, battling grime and laughter in a quest of culinary logistics. Much like us, they too find solace in the humor of the absurd, all while trying to keep their heads above water, or in this case, dishwater. Chapter 8: The Onion Chronicles: Tears and Triumphs in the Grand Kitchen. Hey guys, welcome back to another cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're plunging headfirst into a kitchen so chaotic it could scare even Gordon Ramsay. Yes, prepare yourself for a culinary adventure more precarious than trying to make toast with a medieval fire pit. Get ready to meet our very unsung hero, the maid, who is knee-deep in a pile of onions, tears flowing like the River Thames beneath her tired eyes. Now, while you settle in, let's take a moment to ponder the great mysteries of our 14th century maid. Ever found yourself face to face with a mountain of chores and thought about how you could leverage your I can't make dinner skills into a fast-track reality show? Or maybe you've attempted to chop an onion only to end up with a crime scene-worthy mess, wondering why this little bulb has it out for your tear ducts. It's enough to make you consider whether a life of solitude among cats might be a good trade-off for the chaos of cooking. Speaking of cooking,
Dim those lights. Turn on your fan for a gentle breeze to mimic the charm of medieval kitchens. A feeble attempt to waft away the smell of what's most likely burned leftovers trapped in the dark corners of pots. Get cozy, and before you know it, you'll be knee-deep in the kitchen magic, or, more accurately, kitchen mayhem of 1350. Congratulations! You've just woken up in an era when one might choose an onion over a handsome suitor. Just imagine, it's morning in a medieval castle's kitchen, and our maid, who we shall affectionately name Gertrude, sits at a rough-hewn table. She's surrounded by a mountain of onions, her trusty dull iron knife clutched tightly in her hand as she chops away. Each thud of the knife hitting the wood is a battle cry against the relentless army of vegetables before her. Now, picture this. Gertrude's eyes stream with tears, not out of sorrow, but
from the sheer punch of onion fumes invading her nostrils.
Yes, this is the epitome of medieval multitasking. One moment you're preparing a savory meal, the next you're auditioning for sad music videos. Her cheeks are red and blotchy from the attack, and she wipes her face with a sleeve that has seen more kitchen disasters than your best friend's Thanksgiving potluck. The floor around her, a veritable fortress of white and gold onion skins, the detritus of Gertrude's culinary campaign. It's a swirling sea of evidence, whispering tales of her struggles as she fights valiantly against each onion's stubborn skin, like trying to peel a hazmat suit made from regret. Onions are deceptively simple, but each one is a tiny challenge, waiting to turn the spirited gleam in Gertrude's eye into full-fledged despair. As she works through her pile, the other servants bustle past her like a swarm of caffeinated bees. They glide by, paying no mind to her quiet distress, perhaps absorbed in
their own little dramatic intrigues of kitchen life.
One has taken it upon themselves to foster the fantasy of a romantic kitchen affair, tossing flirtations over the simmering pots, nostalgia as potent as whatever stew is currently at risk of becoming the next mystery dish. But here's the kicker. You know that feeling when you're prepping for a dinner party and the pressure mounts. Visions of dinner guests judging your presentation playing in your mind. Imagine that on steroids. Gertrude is the backbone of a kitchen that quite literally feeds the castle. Yet here she is, practically invisible, with a pile of onions akin to Mount Everest rising around her. Heartfelt, relatable, and somehow deeply absurd, don't you think? Her rhythm is a calming metronome amid the fray, the knife meeting wood with a steady thud. If silence were gold, Gertrude would have made a fortune on this melody of struggle. But alas, she's trapped in a history where scullery elves don't exist, and positive affirmations come solely from the muffled laughter of fellow servants. "Keep going, Gertrude. Just one more onion and you're practically a chef," they'd tease, laughing like ancient stand-up comics thriving on audience participation, oblivious to her plight. The kitchen, dear listeners, has a life all its own, like a raucous family reunion where only the children's laughter truly matters. It smells of stews long forgotten, lingering like unwanted guests who somehow found the way to make themselves at home. Around her, stacks of wooden trenchers appear to lean precariously, like a game of Tetris no one anticipated. And yet, there's an undeniable kind of beauty in this chaos. Gertrude lifts each ceramic bowl like a noble shield, trying to dodge the invisible foe of culinary disasters. She can't help but think, how did I end up here, resorting to an onion-chopping championship just to keep everyone fed? Did she dream as a child of glory days filled with pomegranates and delicate pastries, only to find herself lost in an onion jungle? Each whiff of steam rising up, wrapping her like a crumpled blanket, carries hints of yesterday's feast, trying its utmost to cling to life in the face of culinary uncertainty. You have to admire her tenacity. It's like witnessing the final scene of a sitcom, where the hero finds the strength to battle against the inevitable. More resistance to tears, she seems to plead with the onions. Less preference for dinner guests agog over half-burnt bread. Should we raise a glass and toast to Gertrude? Let's. Through her turbulent saga, she embodies the everyday absurdity of those invisible souls who keep the grand tapestry of history flowing, one chop at a time. So here's to the peeling, the pungent drama, and the kitchen wizards who keep things simmering on a daily basis, not quite eluding the lurking fear of culinary catastrophe. As you ease into sleep, let the rhythm of the chopping fade into a gentle hum. Feel the warmth of the evening stew, the vibrant aromas, the collective spirit of laughter mingling amongst the shadows. For every onion that brought tears, there's a memory waiting to simmer in the bubbling pot of history. Each one a tiny reminder that even in the grandest kitchens, it's the unseen heroes that truly create the magic that nourishes us all. Chapter 9. Sardines and Silence, the silent stars of the Great Hall. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we delve into a world that might just be busier than your local coffee shop during a Monday morning rush. Yes, we're heading into the raucous Great Hall of a medieval castle where the nobles are louder than a pack of cackling hens and the food is fresher than your last date's excuses. Prepare yourself for an earful of humor and hospitality, where our very own unsung hero, the Invisible Maid, stands amidst all the clamor, tasked with keeping this culinary circus running. But first, let's take a moment to ponder a few questions about living life as an invisible soul in the medieval world. Ever found yourself awkwardly stuck between a conversation about the latest court gossip and the guy from accounting who insists on telling you how great his sourdough is? That's the struggle of our maid, who's probably wishing her heavy pewter pitcher of wine came with a sound-dampening feature. How about when your group text blows up and you're left trying to catch up while juggling a glass of wine? That's a light Tuesday for our maid, holding her pitcher as her arms tremble under the weight of expectations. So dim those lights, turn on a gentle fan to simulate the chilly drafts of a stone castle, and get comfortable. Think of the great hall, the smoky air thick with the scent of roasting meats, laughter echoing like a raucous choir, and the rattle of men munching away on various delicacies as if it's their personal Olympic event. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350, where the atmosphere is more charged than a who's sitting where debate at a wedding. Now, let's talk about that peculiar great hall where our invisible maid stands as a silent witness to life's theatrics. Picture it. The hall is draped in splendor, the walls adorned with tapestries depicting tales of valiant knights. It's a space bustling with nobles flinging their heads back, laughing as if a plague of terrible jokes has taken hold. Why do they laugh? Could it be the relentless wine fueling their spirits, or simply enjoying the view of their own exaggerated tales? In one corner, you spot the boisterous Lord Grimble, regaling everyone with stories of his fabled conquests. The only conquest anyone can attest to is his last meal, when he supposedly devoured an entire roasted boar by himself and fell into a food coma that lasted 3 days. You can almost hear the rattle of his belt buckle breaking in his enthusiastic gestures. Still, he continues, "No one can eat like a true lord, right?" Meanwhile, the maid, our dear Gertrude, still frozen against the stone pillar, clutches her pitcher for dear life. The pewter glistens under the flickering torchlight, casting shadows like flipbook animations of medieval mayhem. Her arms tremble, not from exertion, but sheer disbelief. If only she
could roll her eyes, ready to comment, "You're doing great, Grimble. Absolutely thrilling stuff." Instead, all she accomplishes is standing there, invisible as yesterday's stew left behind. As the night spirals into more comedic chaos, the floor beneath her, fresh rushes and herbs, whispers secrets of the past, smelling of grass and aloof garlic, promising relief for sore feet. With each raucous laugh from the table, Gertrude wrestles with the urge to tackle her fellow servants. "Hey, ever think about switching places? I mean, how hard can it be to juggle jokes when I'm sweating buckets just holding this pitcher?" And there lies her humor, nestled in the corners of her thoughts. Surrounding her is a spectacle fit for a king, but apparently oblivious to her struggle. You'd think serving at a medieval feast wouldn't involve standing still, as though attempting to engage in an entirely silent protest. But here she remains, clutching that pitcher like it's the holy grail of beverages.
Every flickering torch, jerked with laughter, reminds her of the hours she spent peeling turnips and scrubbing pots. One can only imagine the eager camaraderie of her fellow kitchen staff, who practically floated by, their laughter like cool breezes masking the weight of her heavy reality. Perhaps Gertrude thinks to herself, "Do they realize I'm here, waiting stoically like a mistreated statue? I could use a thank you, or at least a private shout-out." If only this moment could compile a collection of her comedic thoughts. But alas, the chaos rolls on. Plates clatter as food resembles more of a battle scene than a feast. The aroma of garlic and rosemary mingles with the pungent tang of sweat, cutting through the festive air like a hot knife through butter. And yet, all game thoughts become ambassadors of her silent plight. When her arms feel like they might fall off, she thinks, "At least my arms don't have to endure Grimble's legendary stories." Each swirls of laughter and chatter dance around her, towering like medieval castles, all while she remains a mere shape behind the banner of existence.
for every screaming "Bravo!" directed toward Lord Grimble's exaggerated conquests, let's put on a thank you for Gertrude, who stands valiantly pouring wine while juggling, invisible, worries about onions still left on her cutting board back in the kitchen, feeling like they might stage a revolt against her culinary skills. And as the hall erupts into another round of laughter, as the court jester flips into a cartwheel with impressive fervor, our beloved maid breathes in deeply, holding on to the hope that one day her tales of invisible triumphs might find their way into the arena of shared stories. Until then, let her be the unsung melody, the quiet percussion behind the drums of a medieval feast, eternally waiting for her moment under the biting humor of this extravagant life. So as we slowly prepare to leave this chaotic saga of noble laughter and invisible burdens, remember, it's those unseen heroes, the solemn maids and kitchen warriors, who really keep the wheels turning quietly in the background, waiting for their jest in history. Just like tonight, may we toast to them silently, with our own invisible glasses raised high in appreciation. So gently drift into the next chapter of history, as soft laughter fades into whispers and echoes of feasts linger in the tapestry of time. Chapter 10. Midnight Scraps and Starlit Shadows. The Maid's Tale. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're diving into a world that's busier than a squirrel on espresso. Yes, we're stepping into the dimly lit kitchen of a medieval castle at the late hours of the night, where our heroine, Gertrude the maid, engages in the world's least glamorous ritual, cleaning up after a feast. Just imagine the smell of roasted meat that lingers like an unwanted guest, and the sights of greasy plates piling up faster than your last batch of laundry. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of night duties, let me ask you a few critical questions. Have you ever tried to juggle a half-eaten pie while balancing a bucket that feels like it's filled with both shame and potato peelings? Or perhaps you've dreamed about having your dinner served on plates that weren't somehow adorned with what looks suspiciously like a 2-week-old surprise. Yes, welcome to Gertrude's life, a place where every meal feels like a challenge to balance dignity and a whiff of the leftover galloping horse meat. Grab your slop bucket, because we're about to dive into the realities of a midnight cleanup in 1350. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350, the year that everyone was having a laugh about the Dark Ages. Cue the eye rolls and snickers. It's a time when the sheer act of getting a good night's sleep was more of a competitive sport than a daily routine. Our friend Gertrude's life in the castle kitchen is the kind of setup that makes the worst of modern Airbnb stays look like the Ritz. Picture this: the kitchen, a cavernous space with ceilings that seem to touch the stars, has a pervasive scent that can only be described as hearty and oh so much. Combined aromas of wine-soaked roast and half-hearted scrub-down linger in the air, creating a delightful bouquet that could only be appreciated by someone with a penchant for medieval fare, or perhaps someone just trying too hard to be polite. Margaret Atwood once wrote about the power of scent. Well, after the feast, Gertrude is living proof
that bad scents have their own emotional weight. As Gertrude hunches over a heavy wooden slop bucket, scraping away the remnants of the night's festivities, she feels a bit like one of Michelangelo's discarded angels, just waiting for someone to shout, "You're beautiful!" Is that a greasy bone of unknown origin that just flopped into her bucket? Yes, indeed. It's got that lovely patina of questionably robust meals. If only she could turn back time and have that potion from that one bard's miserable play. The candlelight flickers with a will of its own, dancing perilously along the edges of shadows. "Just don't catch fire, please," she mutters, eyeing the hungry rats skittering around, obviously plotting their next heist against the pastry scraps. The dogs camp out nearby. Their expectant eyes glimmer in the candlelight, radiating both hope and mischief. It's a scene reminiscent of a much more furry and loyal version of Survivor, the ultimate game of who can outlast after the feast's demise. With each clatter of dishware and splat of scraps, Gertrude recalls the sights and sounds of the great hall from earlier that evening. The laughter bloomed like overripe fruit. "That'll be my job for the night, won't it?" she sighs, wondering if the nobles will even notice when they grasp for the next refill of their wine. Did it ever occur to them that their indulgent laughter felt like an enthusiastic wave crashing on her already problematic shores? Each scrape into the bucket sends a wave of irritation through Gertrude. It's like a silent cheer for medieval multitasking. You've got to keep pouring wine, avoiding the floor's mud, and make the pie disappear faster than last month's rent. If only her evening's entertainment included lounging by the hearth with a snug blanket, instead of this lovely slop bucket that now seems to have a life of its own, sending its contents flying in a comedic reenactment of the great hall fiasco. And what of her fellow kitchen helpers? They are nowhere to be found. Ah, yes, probably busy in a heated debate over who burnt the latest batch of bread into crispy charcoal, she mumbles with a chuckle. It's a relief not to be surrounded by the chaos of their steamy arguments over the best way to roast a duck. You'd think they're the duck whisperers or something, Gertrude thinks, shaking her head. In amidst the clanking and clattering, she starts to hear the echoes of the night, the snoring of kitchen staff, the restless shifts of dogs waiting for a morsel to fall, and the distant rhythmic thump of some noble snoring, serenading their own wine-fueled dreams. Would anyone ever consider the maid's plight? Probably not. Yet each scrape of the spoon and chuck of greasy bones is a defining anthem of her existence, a tale of survival against the backdrop of extravagant indulgence. With her candles sputtering still, she gives in to the absurdity of her situation. How's that for making a living, quietly standing, grinning like a Cheshire cat, while merely being a ghost in a medieval castle? Perhaps it's high time someone declared, to Gertrude, the unsung hero of nighttime castle chaos. May her tales and the legendary mishaps surrounding her be clamored for a future bit of epic poetry. And as the slop bucket fills and the night stretches onward, Gertrude's thoughts bubble up like the ingredients in her overboiled porridge. She silently vows to herself that one day she'll be remembered for more than scrubbing mere dishes. What she'll be remembered for still remains uncertain, but surely she believes it'll be as glorious as a feast fit for a king. And so, with a smile more profound than any rotten pie, our dear maid continues her work, caught in the vast web of her medieval existence, a little lighthouse of normalcy amid the raging storm of night, with just a sprinkle of humor to keep the shadows company. So as you drift off to sleep, remember, even in the flickering candlelight of a medieval kitchen, the soul, the silent hero, shines brighter than even the feasting nobles above. Embrace the warmth of their hidden laughter, and perhaps dream of the grand culinary adventures that lay ahead for those left unseen. Chapter 11. The Spitboy Incident. Culinary Conspiracy in the Castle Kitchen. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're stepping into a world that's as hot as a freshly baked pie, except, way less appealing. Yes, welcome to the medieval kitchen, where the smells and sights are a potent mix of charred ambition and questionable hygiene. Picture a scene where the decor is comprised of smoke-stained walls and a floor that could best be described as a 5-second rule's worst nightmare. As you settle into your cozy space, perhaps surrounded by snacks that won't lead to your demise, let's ponder a few truly pressing questions. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a boy tending to a spit while everyone around you is overly concerned with how many turkeys they can roast? Ever experienced the deep existential dread of being that guy while also trying to avoid becoming a source of humor for the nobles? Or, worse, being mistaken for dinner? Yes, welcome to the life of our little hero, the Spit Boy, the unsung culinary martyr of a medieval castle. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350. Yes, the year when a good hair day was literally no one's problem. Because, honestly, who even had time for that when you were busy making sure nothing got charred beyond recognition? The very air around you is thick with the scent of roasted meat and anxiety, wafting through the kitchen like a mischievous spirit that settled in for an extended stay. Let's take a moment to set the scene. In this medieval castle kitchen, which resembles a giant, bustling anthill, if the ants were wearing tunics and had a penchant for setting things on fire, you find yourself plopped onto a 3-legged stool. Now, let's be real. This stool is less of a comfortable seat and more of a medieval version of a workout bench, built for endurance training. The only exercise the Spit Boy truly gets. You're sitting there, a small boy barely 10 years old, with a face flushed bright crimson, thanks to a fire that's roaring over in the corner, cheerfully dancing as if it's auditioning for America's Got Talent. Your job? A rather delightful title, Spit Boy, where you laboriously rotate the meat on a spit, ensuring it doesn't turn into a high-protein version of charcoal briquettes. Ah, medieval multitasking, where keeping meat juicy is as critical as ensuring it doesn't engulf an entire castle in flames. No pressure, right? As you glance around, the kitchen is a symphony of chaos, lively pots clattering like they're trying to start a revolution, and the sound of clanking utensils singing out like twisted medieval melodies. The scent environment is enough to send any modern chef running for the hills. Think of a blend of overcooked meat, smoke, and that unidentifiable smell that sort of resembles whatever was dinner 2 nights ago, marinated in regret. Your hands, oh, those precious hands, are calloused and blackened from soot and rendered fats. It's a badge of honor, though many wouldn't list greasy handshakes as a desirable skill on their resumes. And yet, here you are, breathing in the magic of medieval cuisine. Nothing like the aroma of charcoal and despair to set the mood for a memorable evening, right? Let's elaborate on the high-stakes drama unfolding around you. The kitchen staff? A motley crew buzzing about with the energy level of hyperactive squirrels. They dart in and out, screeching about ingredients like they're participating in a reality TV cooking show. Every so often, someone slips around you, clutching a bag of herbs like it's the Holy Grail, worried they might lose their chance at a Michelin star. Or, in their case, avoid dinner service becoming a viral disaster. Now, how does one explain the physics of being a spit boy to you? Imagine rotating meat as being the most awkward version of a dance. You have to keep an eye on the fire, dodge kitchen staff moving at breakneck speed, and maintain full concentration on the skewer, lest you accidentally send a chicken hurtling into the nearby cauldron, which might just ignite a heated debate among your fellow cooks about the merits of poultry wrestling. Oh, and while we're here, let's not ignore the critters skittering about. Rodents aren't just potential sous chefs. They're practically auditioning for their Oscar-winning roles. Perhaps the kitchen is their nightly buffet, grazing on the scraps that somehow missed the mark. The dogs nearby, positioned like furry bouncers, cast hopeful glances your way, alongside a slew of hungry eyes, each expecting a morsel of meat, or, at the very least, an entire chicken leg to magically tumble their way. And rest assured, dogs aren't picky. With the fire flickering, you settle into the rhythm of your shift. Rotate, watch, dodge, and repeat. Every moment here feels oddly epic, like you're part of a grand tale that tomorrow's bards will surely screw up in retellings. Perhaps they'll swing wildly with the plot twist when the spit actually catches fire, with you being just a boy caught in a culinary clash of titans. The real question is, would you rather be the spit boy or risk becoming a feast mentioned in some bard's next ballad, steeped in the delicious but slightly tragic lore of the one who fell into the cauldron? And as the flames flare up and your shift nears its end, you realize something profoundly important. Life in the medieval kitchen may be endless rotations and burnt bits, but in the depths of it all, you're a part of history. And when it comes to culinary chaos, you're left with a story to tell. So next time you pop open that takeout container, just remember, you could have been the one spinning meat over an unpredictable fire, all while trying to fend off an army of rodents in search of their midnight snack. Now, as you let your eyelids grow heavy, may the thoughts of your culinary escapades descend you safely into the realm of dreams. Reflect on how your life fits snugly into the tapestry of human history, where so many great stories were spun from simple acts of survival intertwined with a sprinkle of absurdity. Sweet dreams, sweet dreams.
Chapter 12.
The Duty of the Spit Boy, a roast beyond reason. Hey guys, welcome back to our little haven of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're diving into a realm that's hotter than the last dubious casserole you made after losing a bet. Yes, prepare yourself for a journey into the medieval kitchen, a space where the fires burn brighter than your online drama, and the smells are as complex as your last relationship review. Now, before we get into the actual meat of things, let's talk about what you can expect from our adventure. What even goes through the mind of a spit boy as he turns a crank for hours, hoping to avoid a bigger disaster than finding out your favorite cafe no longer serves avocado toast? Ever pondered the challenges of cooking for a lord who thinks seasoning is a conspiracy? Do those noble diners realize their delicate palates rest upon the shoulders of this underpaid, crank-turning hero who's trying desperately not to roast his own fingers off?
So settle in, dim those lights, and take a deep breath.
Settle into your cozy blanket fortress, because it's time to let your curiosity wander through the smoky haze of the medieval kitchen. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350, where the air is thick with the aroma of meat, smoke, and perhaps a dash of despair, as young spit boys everywhere live in sheer terror of being mistaken for dinner themselves. The scene unfolds with you seated at your trusty stool, and let's be honest, calling it a stool is like calling a rock a high-end massage chair. It's precariously uneven, creaking under the weight of your worries and yesterday's meals. Your hands grip the heavy iron crank of a long roasting spit, muscles flexing against the metal handle that feels like it was formed in the fires of Mordor. As you begin to crank it clockwise, slowly, steadily, it's like the rhythm of a medieval boombox, the one only you can hear, echoing the sounds of roasted glory. Above, that sizzling, glowing coals, a whole pig rotates, lovingly married to several ducks that rotate alongside it, creating what might just be a culinary version of a circus, minus the popcorn and festive atmosphere. The clinking of iron gears is barely audible over the symphony of crackling logs, which sounds suspiciously like they have opinions about your cooking technique. Ever been judged by your own food? It's not as fun as it sounds. Your palm, pressed firmly against the tattered rag, attempts to shield your delicate skin from the temperature that feels like standing too close to an over-enthusiastic blowtorch. The heat bathes you in a nearly spiritual experience, combining both the intensity of a sauna and the sheer fear of, well, immolation. It's the closest you'll ever get to feeling like a meat shield. Just a few feet from where you stand, the chaos unfolds. The kitchen staff moves with the speed of caffeinated squirrels, darting in and out with ingredients that might as well be gold in this world of charred ambition. The head chef shouts orders like a general preparing for battle, while panicked sous chefs create a dashing choreography around you, each trying to avoid becoming a casualty in said battle, or at worst, a new recipe in the Lord's cookbook. And oh, darling listeners, you simply must consider the critters. Rodents skitter beneath your stool in a comically choreographed search for fallen morsels, forming a family unit right out of a romantic comedy. The local dogs, your furry audience, sit nearby like they're the cast of a medieval cooking show, their eyes trained on you like ravenous critics waiting for a taste test. If you trip and send a duck flying, well, let's say the dogs will hold their judgment, and you'll have more than enough tales to tell around the fire. More than just burnt meat. What's the secret to not becoming the subject of kitchen folklore yourself? Whatever you do, never lose focus. Rotate, watch, dodge, repeat. The culinary mantra that shapes your existence. Every crank of the spit is akin to spinning your way out of a medieval sitcom. Renowned roast, a spit boy's lament. It's sort of like trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle, blindfolded. Misfortune is just one miscalculated rotation away. And of course, let's not ignore the intricate dance between you and the boiling cauldrons simmering nearby. You can only hope you won't end up becoming the next unfortunate ingredient on the menu. The last thing you want is to find your future self narrated in a song about culinary disasters. As your shift drags on, the flames flickering wildly, you look around the bustling kitchen and ponder the nuances of being a spit boy in this sweaty, meaty kingdom. Sure, at any moment you could become an accidentally charred icon of a sad tale, losing a bit of dignity with each sear and spit, but hey, it's not all that bad. In the grand play of history, you find an odd sense of purpose, knowing that somewhere down the line, your name might appear alongside rulers and rogues alike, even if it's more a cautionary tale than a legend. And as the clock ticks, you not only embrace a life of culinary chaos, but also acknowledge that your misfortunes are just part of an epic journey that stretches far beyond the walls of the castle. So next time you pop open a pack of cold leftovers, remember, dear listener, you easily could have been battling the relentless heat of a roaring fire, cranking that spit while avoiding turning yourself into tonight's feature presentation. Now, as your eyelids grow heavier, let your worries drift like smoke from the hearth, and know, with each deliciously absurd rotation, you've entered the annals of history as far more than a mere cog in the culinary machine. Sweet dreams, my brave spit boy, Chapter 13. The Spit Boy's Heat Wave, Flames and Fleas. Let's take a moment to bask in the chaotic glow of the medieval kitchen, shall we? The air is thicker than your aunt's special gravy, and a quick glance toward the hearth might just make your eyebrows question your life choices. Picture this: fat drips from a haphazardly roasted pig landing in a long copper tray that's hot enough to host a summer barbecue in a sauna. Small bursts of flame sprout like excited party favors coughed up by the sizzling meat, while the aroma blends into an intoxicating cocktail of grease and high-spirited desperation. Meet our spit boy, a valiant soul not much older than the number of fingers on a moderately tragic hand. He's wedged in front of the fire, turning the crank of destiny, or at least that's what he tells himself after the fourth roast of the week. His hair, matted with sweat and soot, offers a natural camouflage against the backdrop of cooking chaos, blending him seamlessly into the scene. On the classic scale of medieval life challenges, our spit boy is somewhere between not stepping in horse dung and ensuring you don't become a gourmet topping on accident. He's locked in a dance with flames that seem all too eager to sneak a bite of his hand. But alas, duty calls even louder. Ever find yourself trapped in a job that makes you question your every life decision? Picture him staring into the roaring inferno, wishing he could float away on a cloud of roasted duck fumes, or at least find a cool breeze somewhere off stage. Flinching as a hot bead of grease missiles toward him like a medieval sniper, he leans into the scorching heat, unable to escape this culinary gladiator arena. It's ironic, really. One moment, he could be dreaming of distant lands, and in the next, he's playing the fool to his own fire-breathing audience. Let us delve deeper into this symphony of chaos. The sound of cranking metal complements the crackle of flaming logs, which seem to have personal vendettas against hats and hair. Each rotation of the spit is a heartbeat in this bustling kitchen, a place where you can almost hear your dreams evaporate faster than the puddle of grease beneath your feet. The kitchen staff buzzes around like caffeinated bees, darting in and out with fresh produce and dead animals, all part of the grandiose recipe for a noble feast. You can imagine their enthusiasm is akin to that of teenagers at a pizza party, only far more stinky and with a significantly higher chance of serious injury. Speaking of the dancing denizens, let's not forget about the kitchen critters, those furry little imposters providing their own brand of comic relief. They scurry beneath the spit boy's stool, an entire rodent family executing a masterclass in slapstick, a race for crumbs that would put a game of Twister to shame. And just by coincidence, if you glance around, you'll spot the local dogs eagerly waiting for a piece of the action, staring at the spit as if it's a long-awaited blockbusters. If a roast duck happens to take an unexpected tumble, be assured it'll be a new episode in the Dogs of the Castle series, with all the drama and intrigue of a Shakespearean tragedy. As your shift drags on, the flames flicker wildly, almost as if they're mocking you with each turn. Rotate, watch, dodge, repeat. It's a mantra for survival, akin to rehearsing your flirtation skills before meeting your crush. But what exactly do the lords know about the circus behind the curtain, this dangerous ballet in front of a raging fire? Your lordship, surely you wouldn't want your chickens to taste like they fought the flames for their lives. Yet he insists on the juiciest of roasts, blissfully unaware that, without the spit boy and his unassuming battle with the inferno, tonight's meal would involve far more char than charm. The unique truth remains: the spit boy, while risking rather charred scenarios, stands as a vital cog in this medieval machine. Sure, he could very well end up being the subject of a tragic ballad sung over mugs of bubbling ale, a hero of the backstory whose highlight reel would be titled A Boy and His Grease. Yet, in this bizarre escapade, he's found odd camaraderie amidst the chaos, people bustling, flames roaring, and a persistent hope, and quite often no choice, to not become a roasted casualty. As the clock edges closer to bedtime, or rather, the end of roasting, a sweet sense of irony lingers in the air. The Spick Boy, a quasi-mythical creature in his own right, finds clarity. Yes, he's turning meat by day, dodging disasters by night, and he might just fall asleep dreaming of a roasted paradise where flaming spit turns into a vacation on a sandy beach, minus the grease. Dear listeners, as your eyelids grow heavier, let the imagery dissolve into your dreams. And remember, at any moment, our spit boy could be you, caught in the act of
Becoming history, one sizzle at a time.
Sweet dreams, my valiant cranking friend. Tomorrow's roasts await. Roasts.
Chapter 14.
The Nightly Descent of the Gong Farmer. Hey guys, tonight we delve into something grittier than the leftovers at a medieval banquet. The nocturnal life of the infamous Gong Farmer. Picture this as a history lesson wrapped in a thick layer of grime and absurdity, perhaps layered with a sprinkle of lavender for good measure. Why? Because between the sounds of dripping water and the scent of disappointment, we want you to comfort yourselves with the knowledge that, yes, there are worse jobs than yours. Before we venture further into this medieval cesspool, both literally and figuratively, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even drop a comment. You know, if that light-hearted giggle about history hits just right. And if you find yourself squirming at the thought of plumbing issues you've dealt with in your apartment, rest assured, it's a lot worse when you're the guy hired to haul away waste from a castle. Now, dim those lights, put on a fan, and sink into something cozy. You've certainly earned it after a long day. Oh, and speaking of bad jobs, have you ever wondered what makes one person choose the life of a gong farmer, while everyone else is busy living it up in the knowledge that they don't have to carry a shovel into the depths of a medieval pit? Do they quickly learn diplomacy with their peers or with their noses? How does one even explain this to their friends at the local tavern? So, what do you do for a living? Oh, just engaging in a bit of organic waste management, specifically human. I mean, what's your elevator pitch? And do they get tips? And if so, is it just more stinky jobs? Well, buckle up, because congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350, where the walls are damp, the air is thick, and, you guessed it, a big one is brewing below. Let's talk about that descent, shall we? As you step into the night, a rickety wooden ladder creaks underfoot, rattling like your office chair during Monday morning meetings. The air is like a soggy blanket, and every breath feels like inhaling directly from a moldy sponge. Flicking the torch as if you're trying to summon an ancient deity to share in your distress, you tentatively navigate down into the abyss. Your stomach churns with a melody of dread and resignation, much like the feeling of finding out your favorite pizza place is closed. Now, as you step further into the cesspit, a euphemism that suddenly feels like a mighty understatement, it's time to embrace your new olfactory reality. Suffering has never had a more pungent aroma, and you quickly discover the complex bouquet of aromas wafting around you. It's equal parts yesterday's overcooked cabbage and not very fresh garlic. Ever tried to convince yourself that 5-day-old leftovers might just do the trick? Yes, this is like that, but on an industrial scale you wouldn't dare imagine. Your boots squelch through the muck, plunging like an unfortunate. superhero for whom deep-sea diving missions were just daydreams. As you sink deeper into the squishy darkness, you can't help but think, geez, this wasn't covered in the job description. Was there an ancient warning etched in stone? Something like, beware the sludge of despair, for it clings more fiercely than a cat you regret adopting. Beyond the layers of filth, silence reigns, broken only by the symphony of dripping water. The steady plink, plunk is almost rhythmic, like a terrible percussionist dabbling in bitter medieval blues. In this eerie, dimly lit chamber, you stumble upon an unseen world where the castle's less glamorous routines thrive. It's like a behind-the-scenes tour of history's messiest concert, where no one bothered cleaning up. But if the gong farmer had a mission, it was almost heroic in its oddity. Amidst the unglamorous chaos, you contemplate how many battles these brave souls have fought, perhaps not against dragons or invading armies, but against the very scourge of humanity: excess waste. Ever thought about that moment when your life choices slaps you in the face like a fly buzzing around at dinner? That moment when your friends say, "What's your job?" and you casually whisper, "I manage human waste disposal under a castle." Well, congratulations, dear listener. You are now the sad prodigy of history. You've traded in your comfy bed for a throne of muck beneath medieval stone. So why not imagine them gathering after a long night beneath the stone keep? Do they swap war stories? Remember that one time I tripped into the pit while fending off rats? Had to wave my torch around like an angry wizard. As they share laughs under the moonlight, one can't help but wonder, do they complain to their comrades about the odor? Or do they simply bond over their shared pitiful plight? Because, let's face it, at least they have camaraderie in the face of some pretty oppressive scents. And just as you think,
This descent can't get any more absurd. Let this little gem sink in. Our intrepid gong farmers, masters of shovels and shields against the offensive odors, would not only scrape up the refuse of the nobles, no, they were actually considered a necessary part of castle society, like the secret ingredient in a very bad soup. You can't quite figure out what's off with it, but you know it would be terrible without it. So, as you drift into slumber and embrace the absurd hilarity of the gong farmer's nightly escapades, remember, each of us has a role in the grand tapestry of life, even if ours happens to involve wading through human waste. May your dreams be lively and fresh, a stark contrast to the realm below, where laughter mingles with excess, and the heroic struggles of everyday life are painted in hues of unmentionable grime. Sweet dreams, valiant attendee of the medieval pit. Tomorrow, we plunge even deeper into the absurdities of history, one stinky step at a time. Chapter 15. The Gritty Dance of the Gong Farmer. Hey guys, tonight we pull back the curtain on a job that's less glamorous than a mud fight at the court of King Richard. It's the strenuous life of a gong farmer.
Imagine it as a history lesson so thick with dirt you could plant potatoes in it and still harvest an embarrassing crop of reality. Why? Because as you relax here, nestled in the arms of your favorite pillow, if that pillow could sigh in existential defeat, just remember there are worse jobs out there than yours. Not many, but at least a solid handful. Before we fully plunge into the foul depths of this medieval cesspit, both in terms of work and atmosphere, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe drop a comment or two, but only if you enjoy the sweet aroma of absurdity wafting through history. Yes, we exist in a constant loop of how can it get worse and hold my beer. So let's embrace it together. Now, as you snuggle into your robes, or whatever makeshift sleepwear you fancy, ever wondered about the psyche of a gong farmer? Do they suffer from a chronic case of nose blindness after years of shoveling the dregs of humanity? Are their friendships forged over shared horror stories that sound like snippets from a medieval horror flick? Would their family gatherings be filled with awkward silence when the question of jobs comes up? Well, Grandma, I shovel, organic decorations for the castle. I mean, how do you even explain that over a plate of stale bread? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1350, a time when the air was thick with mystery, mud was basically an accessory, and your local castle's plumbing situation could only be described as a fantastical disaster. So, let's dive in, quite literally. As night swallows the castle's ramparts, the gong farmer prepares for his descent. The world above is blissfully unaware of the nocturnal mess lurking below, where torchlight flickers on moss-dripped walls, illuminating an unpleasant truth. Here the rich and powerful dwell, completely ignorant of the nightly symphony of plonk and splatter that accompanies their feasts. As you shuffle toward the pit's gaping maw, you overhear the sloshing sound of mud, almost as if it's summoning you to a dark embrace. You shake your head, reassuring yourself that this isn't the worst date idea you've ever stumbled into. The ladder creaks ominously beneath your steps, and you wonder if perhaps its rickety wood is more loyal than any of your previous partners. Reality hits as your feet land in the muck below. Squelch. Yes, my friend, welcome to the world where your shoes become unwitting partners in a dark dance with sludge. The heavy iron shovel awaits, a tool as inviting as a wobbly roller coaster made for one, and you know your evenings are about to get delightful. With every shovelful, you engage your core as you lift dense, dark waste into the cart, an act much like weightlifting, but with triple the regrets and none of the gym selfies. You find humor in the absurdity. Here you are, reenacting the age-old premise of, "Ow, my back," while the shadows chuckle at your plight. The smell? Let's talk about the bouquet of aromas wafting around you. It's a sensory experience that defies logic, equal parts despair and, is that last week's cabbage rolling in from the left? Add in some mysterious bits of broken ceramics and straw, and you're left wondering if this is a job or an avant-garde cooking class gone terribly wrong. Ever tried to mix aromas that smell like every regrettable meal you've ever had? Welcome to the Gong Farmer experience.
where every breath feels like the universe is both mocking and suffocating you. Your shoulders strain as you work with grim determination. Each heavy shovelful feels like a struggle against the very earth itself. The silence is deceptive, broken only by the steady cadence
of drip, 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 the soundtrack of this regrettable adventure. Does it resemble a soothing rainstorm or the world's most dysfunctional percussion section? Either way, let's just say many a peasant has wished for earplugs in a job like this. Now, how do you think conversation goes among the gong farmers during their brief respites? Do they swap horror stories like some sort of underground Olympic event? Remember that time we found a rat the size of a small dog? I swear it looked me dead in the eye before scuttling back in despair. Sure, life in the pit isn't glamorous, but camaraderie flourishes even amid mounds of refuse. Because if you're going to suffer, you might as well suffer together, right? And as you seize another shovelful, your thoughts wander. What is my life? You ponder cynically. Did I sign up for this? Was there a medieval career fair where someone pitched this as the next big thing? You chuckle to yourself, realizing that surely there's an absurdity lurking in every corner of history. These unsung heroes of the castle are not just cleaning up. They are battling the very essence of life itself, navigating the oozing reality where every load is a victory against unspeakable ickiness. But armchair historians, take note. Tomorrow, as you plop down at your grainy table, post your thoughts about the heroic sacrifice of these castaway souls. And remember, every time you flush your toilet without a second thought, you're living proof that the past has some spectacular failures which we prefer to leave buried, and that probably involves a faulty plumbing system in medieval times. So, as you drift into the dreamscape peppered with the bizarre ballet of the gong farmer, remember this. Some jobs may be a bit on the nosy side, but you have the luxury of choosing your own discomfort, while they, brave souls of history, dined on the remnants beneath the ground. Rest well, for tomorrow we uncover even more whimsical tales resting just beneath the cobblestones of history. Chapter 16. Nighttime Adventures of the Gong Farmer. Hey guys, tonight we shift our gaze from the soaring turrets of castles to something infinitely more fragrant, the world of the gong farmer. Picture this. It's as delightful as taking a stroll through the city after a week-old fish market had a particularly enthusiastic sale. You might think you know what to expect, but oh, wait until you trot through the shadows of the medieval night, breathing in the unmistakable aroma of history and a wee bit of humanity. Before we plunge into the warmly pungent details of our nocturnal adventurer, give a gentle nudge to that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe drop a wee comment, only if you really appreciate the fine mix of absurdity and history, of course. Who doesn't like a bit of a midnight chuckle with their bedtime routine? So, as you settle in under your cozy blankets, have you ever wondered what would happen if your job literally involved shoveling other people's messes? What if the only thing standing between you and the unyielding embrace of filth was a creaky wooden cart and your lowly sense of dignity? Picture this. Are gong farmers the unsung heroes
or the most underappreciated members of medieval society? What kind of bizarre tales do they swap during their evening shifts? And do they ever get tired of explaining their profession at social gatherings? Oh, you clean the stables. That's cool. I harvest the, finished products for the aristocracy. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350, the year when your local castle's plumbing could only be likened to a fantastical horror movie featuring rigorous plots and villainous, smelly pits. As night blankets the cobblestone streets, a figure emerges from the castle gates. The gong farmer, armed with an iron-rimmed cart and a heart full of grim determination. As he rolls his cart through the deserted streets, the wheels creak and groan on the uneven cobbles, sounding like a remorseful accordion playing the wrong key in a dark, dreary tavern. The mist hovers thick and chilly, wrapping around the houses like a clingy ex-boyfriend, making every move feel eerily intimate. The shadowy outlines of market stalls lean quietly, their stalls empty, as if even the vegetables have taken the day off to avoid the fate waiting just around the corner. Did you ever notice how reflective surfaces seem to go dim right when you need them the most? Well, the only illumination he has is the glow of his flickering lantern, casting playful shadows that would surely make any night owl feel like they are trapped in a low-budget ghost flick. And just as the darkness swallows his path, he heads towards the distant fields, an unassuming pilgrim in the kingdom of odors and despair. Let's talk about smells for a moment. Imagine, if you will, the enchanting aroma of freshly mown hay mixed with hints of rotting vegetables, all topped off with the eye-watering surprise of, what exactly was that? The lingering scent of cabbage? The oddity of medieval cuisine? This is the bouquet the gong farmer breathes in deeply with each labored step. And then there's the sound. Ah, yes, the delightful symphony of the night. A symphony not of melodious nightingales, but of dripping sludge and squelching mud. It's the pleasant soundtrack to a job description that could easily be mistaken for a pun-laden nightmare. Each squelch is like the universe offering you rare opportunities for self-reflection. Why did I choose this path? Or, how did I end up here instead of a passionate career as a medieval potter? Now, picture this. Every now and then, the gong farmer wonders about the perks of his less than glamorous occupation. Gorgeous night shining down on my wealth of waste. Who needs riches when your insurance plan comes with a hefty dose of muck? Yes, indeed, my friend. Every load of refuse flung into the cart serves as a reminder that you are indeed living the dream. And while he toils, the quiet camaraderie among the fellow gong farmers offers fleeting moments of comfort. Did you catch that hairy creature trying to escape last week? I named it Sir Mucklington, furry little diva. In their world, laughter is scarce, yet even the most skeptical souls find humor when fabricating tales of the outlandish horrors hidden in their unconventional realm. As the cart becomes heavy with the burdens of the night, our weary gong farmer moves with graceful determination, perhaps reevaluating his life choices for the 100th time. Stepping gingerly in the dark, scraping the muck off his boot, a thought springs to mind. Tonight's adventure could inspire an epic ballad, but no one will sing it. At least if tradition holds, he might just be relegated to the footnote, while everyone else dances in vibrant tunes at the ball. And then it dawns on him, the joy of stinky solitude, the kind of peace in knowing that your nightly triumph over the elements might not win you a round of applause at court, but it does bring a solid sense of purpose, like reminding the elite that yes, staying flush and clean requires some good old-fashioned elbow grease, served with a side of airflow problems. So as you drift into the dreamlike abyss, steeped in the absurdity of this dark and wholly mysterious job, remember, while you and I may share mundane complaints about Monday mornings, think of the gong farmer rolling through the shadows, his heartbeat a wild war drum in the nighttime hush, forever dedicated to the beautiful chaos of life itself. Snuggle in, my friend. Tomorrow awaits more charmingly grim tales notioned in the recesses of history. Chapter 17. The Candlelit Custodian's Midnight Wander. Hey guys, tonight we leave behind the aromatic escapades of the gong farmer and tiptoe into the moonlit realm of candlelight, where shadows flicker like a ballroom full of bashful gossipers. Imagine a place so drafty it could give even the most stubborn winter chill a run for its money. The halls are so long they might actually wind around the globe if you squint hard enough. Before we immerse ourselves in the luminous duties of our midnight custodian, yes, the unsung hero of medieval castles who taught the world that candlelight, like conversation at a questionable dinner party, can go downhill very quickly. Make sure to give that like button a gentle poke. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment if you really feel the urge to share your burning passion for history. But remember, we only want to hear from you if you're ready to embrace the delightful absurdity of life as we know it. Now, let's dim the lights, crank that fan to soothing breezy, and snuggle deeper into your blankets. Ever wondered what it's like to walk through a castle at night, where the echoes of far-off history mingle with the scent of beeswax and the occasional whiff of baked beans that some poor soul forgot to wash out of the fabric? And how about the thought of being responsible for ensuring that none of the candles go out, while avoiding the lurking specter of judgment from noble lords who expect their flickering lights to be as lively as a court jester on a sugar high? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350, a year when the winds played tricks on your hair, and the only source of light was a bunch of candles that flickered with the same enthusiasm as a cat in a bathtub. It's dark and cool here, with only the moon lighting up those towering empty castles as if they're trying to impress someone. But wait, that's you, the budding apprentice to the chamberlain, someone destined to wield the immortal power of illumination.
Picture yourself wandering down a long, drafty stone gallery, the kind that feels like a chilly hug from an estranged cousin. You clutch a bundle of long tallow candles in one hand, while the other grips a snuffer, that sophisticated tool that could double as a medieval ninja weapon if needed. Your shoes squeak softly on the polished floor, sounding like a disgruntled mouse trying to find its groove. Only here, every squeak seems amplified, as if the very stones are gossiping about your every move. As you pass tall, arched windows displaying the moonlit courtyard below, it's tempting to think that perhaps the moon is your cheerleader, gloriously gloating at the poor sap responsible for lighting the way for noble beings who likely can't pronounce fire, let alone appreciate how much work goes into ensuring it remains lit. The moon sighs. Aren't we lucky to have a palace full of ungrateful aristocrats? You stop at a high wall sconce, that ancient relic with a personality as vibrant as a potato. Placing your candles just so, you replace a guttering wick with a reverence usually reserved for fragile artifacts. The wax drips down, creating a miniature candle sculpture every bit as lovely as a cobweb-covered statue in a forgotten corner of the castle. Let's take a moment to appreciate the rich tapestry of sounds around you. The gentle crackling of flickering flames dances a duet with the occasional draft, making it sound as though the castle itself is performing an elaborate opera, with you as the humble stagehand in the background. The shadows twist and sway, almost attempting to impart their wisdom to the hapless apprentice who stumbles through history like a toddler at a wedding. What's that smell? A study in contrasts, burnt tallow mingled with the sweetness of wax, and a dash of, "Oh dear, what is that?" from the last feast that left the floors grimier than 7 failed attempts at a medieval pancake Recipe. This is your world now, one where candlelight battles with shadows, and the mere whisper of being elbow deep in candle wax therapy replaces your modern woes. Every time you nearly drop one of the precious candles, the panic surges like coffee on an empty stomach. Will my fingers be forever stained with the mortification of ruining a noble evening? Will I be banished to the dungeons of embarrassment, tasked with sorting through old scrolls of candle makers throughout the ages? These thoughts race through your mind as the wicks tremble, echoing your caffeine-free existence. Journeying further down the corridor, you notice a flickering flame caught in the corner of your sight. It's another candle, a rogue unnoticed by the other lights, a villain in this tale of flickering uncertainty. You can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of a world where rogue candles might end up plotting against you, the newbie custodian. "Look out," they might whisper to each other. "Brother, the Chamberlain's apprentice is coming! Hide!" But alas, that would punctuate your evening with an unfair soundtrack of embarrassment worthy of the biggest pratfall in a comedy. As you dutifully attend to the fixtures, it strikes you. You might just be the quiet hero of this castle, a steadfast candle knight in leather shoes. While nobles prance or grumble about their far more glorious responsibilities, what you wield might be the most impactful, a steady glow in the dark, a ball of light in a realm of shadows. So, as you take a deep breath, inhaling the medley of wax and possibility, remember, the grit and glory of maintaining the noble household isn't just about flickering lights and polished floors. It's about embracing every moment, even the chaos, the drafts, and the shadows that seem to whisper ancient tales of both dread and delight in this wondrous medieval tapestry. And as you snuff out your last candle for the night, slowly letting the shadows reclaim their domain, rest easy, knowing tomorrow will offer you even more illuminating adventures. Till then, my friend, sleep tight. May your dreams be as bright as the candles you carefully nurture, and as unpredictable as a mouse's fate in a castle full of squeaky shoes. Chapter 18. The Ledger of Lasting Legacies. Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves in a cramped little corner of medieval wonder, a space so stuffed with scrolls and jars that it could give even the coziest hoarder a run for their money. Think of it as the original Cave of Wonders, only instead of gold and jewels, you've got musty parchment, a few suspiciously complex spices, and possibly the keys to a very ill-fated side quest. Now, imagine our dear apprentice hunched over a heavy ledger with a quill that feels more like a chicken wing than a writing implement. You know that feeling when your pen runs out of ink mid-sentence? Picture that, but add the existential dread of accidentally turning an important account of grain stocks into a recipe for gruel. It's a high-stakes world of medieval bookkeeping where every squiggly line could mean the difference between a hearty feast or yet another round of whatever we can scrounge cooked with liberal sprinklings of dirt. But before we delve deeper into the world of ink and exceedingly tedious accounting, do me a favor. Tap that like button as gently as a medieval peasant might poke a sleeping bear. Subscribe if you enjoy this, but only if you have a moment to spare, because who wouldn't want to drift off into dreamland with tales of long-gone ledger keepers and the haunting scent of ink wafting through their minds. Now, let's get comfy. Flick off those harsh lights like they owe you money. Set the fan to parchment delight and snuggle under your blankets. A perfect medieval-style chill zone. As you settle in, consider, if you lived in a castle during this time, would your biggest work hazard be ink stains, or simply being ignored by everyone who thought doing the dishes was a more noble pursuit? And when was the last time you had to account for barrels of salt while dodging the scandals of disgruntled nobles? No? Just me? Congratulations. You've just woken up in 1350, surrounded by scrolls, jars, and twirling mysteries worthy of bedtime storytelling. It's a bit cramped in this office, like being stuck in an elevator that only stops at the most inconvenient floors. The dreamy aroma of dried lavender mingles with, let's call it, the essence of overdue historical records, and the only company you have is the flickering light from a beeswax candle that thinks it's the star of a one-wick show. As you grip your goose quill, ready to transcribe what can only be described as the biggest snooze fest in medieval history, let's talk about what you're recording. Your current mission? The count of salt barrels and sacks of grain. Riveting stuff, really. You'd almost think you were part of some sort of
medieval cooking competition if none of the ingredients sounded like they'd left their best days behind, somewhere between the hay and the livestock. Writing in this dim light feels somewhat like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. You dip your quill in the dark enchantment of ink, careful to avoid the dreaded splatter effect. Just imagine the horror. Instead of becoming a scribing sensation, you're suddenly painted like a walking canvas of chaotic bookkeeping. Ah, yes, I see you've become the Picasso of salt measurings, the nobles would say, dripping with a generous dose of sarcasm. You take a moment to appreciate your surroundings. Shelves brimming with jars of spices, some of which could easily double as medieval potpourri, and bolts of cloth that might be remnants of failed fashion choices. Ever seen a peacock get dressed by a blindfolded squirrel? Well, you're just one bolt away from that very image, and it's a true feast for the imagination, one that should probably stay firmly planted in your brain, like an awkward dinner conversation everyone is trying to avoid. As you shuffle through the records, the paper makes a sound reminiscent of 1,000 whispers, like the scrolls themselves conspired
to tell you about their wild adventures. I once witnessed the first seasonal harvest, one might gossip, and I have the stains to prove it. And let's not ignore that delightful smell wafting in through the cracks. It's like a cocktail of old parchment and a hint of something cartoonishly medieval, where you could swear you're one sniff away from a massive banquet where every dish mysteriously contains turnips. Just a comforting reminder that even in the enchanting world of ledger keeping, dinner could always utilize a few too many root vegetables. Picture yourself jotting down numbers, the sound of the quill scratching against the parchment, echoing like the world's most tedious drumbeat, while outside your window the moon masquerades as a voyeur, peering in as if to judge your life choices. What are you doing, scribe, it seems to say, as if baking bread was somehow more noble than marking down the stock of grains. You should be out there living life.
To which you might retort, but I am living. In fact, I'm living life with the utmost excitement through this ledger of historical delights.
Not that anyone is listening. The only audience is a hapless mouse that's probably just waiting for you to drop a meticulously counted grain. Talk about living on the edge. As you tally your last sack of grain for the night, pride swells like a medieval balloon animal from a jester's waist. You realize you might be the unsung hero of the castle, someone who makes the culinary chaos possible. No salt, no feast, no stories of heroic gorging. Without you, noble lords and ladies would never know the true torment of counting accrued calories. So when you finally stow your quill, the dark ink smudged proudly across your fingers, lean back and take a breath. The world outside may seem chaotic, but you have kept the realm afloat on your unwavering metrics of grain and salt. Tomorrow awaits with a brand new ledger and more magnificent.
Misconceptions of history.
And as the beeswax candle flickers low, whispering secrets of a day gone by, sleep tight. Dream of bizarre spice adventures, rogue turnips, and the overnight transformation of your role from quiet accountant to legendary hero, one pen stroke at a time. Because you, dear apprentice, hold the keys to the castle's legacy.
even if your master, ironically, prefers boiled potatoes over all your nocturnal ingenuity. Chapter 19, a spaghetti western, except there's no spaghetti. Hey guys, welcome back to another journey through history, where we strip away the glam and uncover the melty goo beneath. Tonight, we roam into a realm so down to earth it could comfortably give a potato a run for its money. Yes, we're diving into the gritty reality of those invisible souls in medieval castles, the not-so-glamorous team that kept the fortress running and may have considered turning horse manure into a side hustle. Now, before we hop onto this dusty haycart of history, let me ask you, have you ever wondered what it was like to wake up surrounded by not-so-inviting smells? Like, did I forget to change the bag of trash? Or did I just walk into a dragon's armpit? Or just what early morning errands looked like for folks who didn't have the convenience of a Starbucks at their castle gates. Imagine this, a stable boy waking up, yawning so hard you might think he's auditioning for a part in a dragon's snooze fest. The challenge of navigating life, smelling like a hasty breakfast of yesterday's oats. And here's a real kicker. Have you ever thought about how people in the Middle Ages managed their me time? Potty breaks included? No porta potties lining the perimeter, that's for sure. So, as you cozy up under your favorite blanket, let's dim those lights and make sure the fan is circulating enough air to mask that faint odor of desperation from your last dinner. Get comfortable, because we're about to plummet into 1350, a year when life was as chaotic as trying to fold a fitted sheet while camping in the rain. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a loft filled with golden straw. Think of it as nature's luxury bedding, but with a slight chance of insects. There's a wooden ladder that squeaks in protest as you descend, revealing a dim, cavernous stable below. The air wraps around you like a warm and somewhat sticky hug, adorned with the unmistakable bouquet of hay, manure, and horse sweat. Delightfully charming, right? As you stand in the stable, sunlight pours through the slats, illuminating a fine layer of dust that dances in the air like tiny, hopeful fairies who really took the wrong career path. Various destriers, giant flamboyant horses that seem to have an overinflated ego, stir in their stalls. Every thud of their massive hooves on the dirt floor is like a soft drum roll, as if they're announcing their illustrious lives of grazing and looking majestic. Now picture this. You step outside and are flooded with a rush of steam rising from the beasts as they breathe in the cold morning air, showing that they too have feelings, but slightly less existential dread than you. You grab a heavy pitchfork, and with the grace of a knight preparing for a battle, begin the rhythmic dance of mucking out a stall. Each thrust mirrors the daily grind of life in the castle, where, spoiler alert, horse poop is the true MVP of castle cleanliness. Ah yes, mucking out. It's sort of like a modern-day chore, only with less whining and a lot more, why did I choose to work here? It's like trying to clean a public restroom after a music festival, except you're armed with a pitchfork and the courage of a valiant stable boy instead of modern sanitizers. Ever tried to sweep out an entire room after a midsummer party gone wrong? Multiply that by 100, and you'll kind of get the picture. The delicate harmony of your morning routine is occasionally interrupted by the sounds of the castle above. The clanging of pots, the echo of muffled voices debating whether roast mutton or gruel is more appropriate for breakfast. And yet, here you are, navigating the swirl of muck, packing your life's ambitions tightly into each scoop of horse droppings. How delightfully medieval. Your neighborhood idea of success? Truly, it's making sure the stables are clean enough to have respectable conversations with the nobles who don't deign to step into the peasants' chaotic world. This is like going to the grocery store wearing pajama bottoms but trying to look casual cool. Spoiler, it's mostly chaos, but with the potential for somebody to mistakenly compliment it. Let's not forget about your main audience, those towering beasts of burden. They have their own mysterious social hierarchies, where every neigh and snort seems like gossip exchanged at a horsey coffee shop, each judging your muck performance. Did you see how he handled that fresh pile? Absolutely riveting. And all the while, you're left pondering if the horses have quietly formed an allegiance against you, hoping that the next pitchfork thrust might accidentally send lunch your way. You can't make this up. So, as you finish the stall with an artistic flourish, pride swells in your chest, and you contemplate your next moment of fame. A simple thank you from the horses might suffice, but deep down, you know they'll probably just give you an uninterested flick of their tail. Yes, it's a thankless job, but someone must embrace the glory of being the castle's unsung hero, the invisible soul amidst a tapestry of horsehair, straw, and quirky, majestic steeds. And as you take a step back, proud of your daily mucking, you might find yourself daydreaming of noble quests, wondering if there's a reward for cleaning up horse excrement that could buy you a ticket to a royal banquet. Who knows, right? As you lean against the pitchfork, you can't help but chuckle at the glorious irony of it all. Tonight's feast will feature absolutely zero horse dung, and yet they all owe you a life debt of gratitude. Sweet dreams, brave soul. You are the unsung knight of the stable. Knight. Chapter 20. The Unsung Equine Enthusiasts. Hey guys, welcome back to another delightful exploration of history's lesser-known tidbits, like finding change in the couch cushions of time. Tonight, we dive deeper into the sweaty, musty world of medieval castles, a realm filled with not-so-glamorous creatures living alongside your local noble. And I'm not talking about the genteel folk sipping on their expensive mead while reclining on plush cushions. No, it's time to meet the stable boys, the hard-working, somewhat fragrant individuals that made the castle life run smoother than a bard's serenade, though, let's be honest, probably with less talent. So, snuggle in, and before we steer this trusty steed into the enchanting yet rugged world of 1350, let me ask you, ever found yourself in a job nightmarishly paired with a snorting beast? Can you imagine your morning commute involving a heavy pitchfork instead of a cup of coffee? Or what if you had to explain to your friends that, oh, sorry, I can't make it to the party. I'm busy cleaning up after 6 tons of horse poop. If that doesn't make you appreciate your current 9-to-5, I don't know what will. So let's dim the lights and fling open those windows, because we're headed straight into the aromatic haze of the medieval stable. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a loft filled with golden straw, a luxurious resting place, if you're keen on sharing your dreams with an assortment of ants. The very air you breathe feels alive, swirling with that quaint bouquet of hay, horse sweat, and just a hint of what you really don't want to consider this morning. Yes, welcome to a day in the life of a stable boy in 1350. Feel free to adjust that straw pillow that's starting to feel suspiciously like a medieval version of a low-budget mattress. Now you can hear the rustling of horses in their stalls, a sound like the gentle crinkle of parchment documents where the nobles
Inscribe their whispered dramas.
Nearby, your trusty gray stallion, Sir Snorts-a-Lot, is looking at you with big, expectant eyes. You take a breath and walk over, reaching out to groom its glorious mane, your hand moving with all the tenderness of a caring parent. Except, of course, this parent has dirtier hands and just might have a smear of yesterday's oat mash on the corner of their mouth. You pick up the stiff brush, and dust flies up in a plume, an impressive display that competes admirably with any local fireworks show. Sir Snorts-a-Lot reciprocates your affection with a soft nicker, something akin to a horsey version of, "Hey there, buddy, you won't believe the gossip I overheard about the wildly ambitious goat from next door." The stable shakes with the delightful sounds of contented munching, where the horses are engaging in what seems to be an all-you-can-eat buffet of hay, seemingly oblivious to the concept of moderation. As you brush the beast, you can't help but ponder the critical question of the day. What on earth do horses even think about? The beasts continue their clinking of iron bits and munching naps, but surely there's more to their lives than just eating and occasionally galloping into the sunset. Do they have horse fantasies? Perhaps they're dreaming of a fabulous life where they wear the crowns of all horses, past and present. One can only wonder as you start the meticulous routine of checking their hooves for hidden stones or bizarrely shaped burrs, nature's little gifts to the stable folk. Comparatively speaking, this routine of grooming is not much different from a caricature of modern grooming habits. Ever tried to detangle your hair after a night of vigorous sleep? Multiplying that frustration by the size of a horse, and you'll realize horses probably aren't too different from you after all. Oh, come on, buddy. Can't you at least hold still while I'm dealing with the unexpected burr? Collection. Dust and hay are deliciously intertwined as you continue your brush dance, the sun now shining through the wooden slats and revealing the chaotic remnants of yesterday's chores. Horses gently clink bits that echo like a medieval orchestra tuning before a major performance, filled with one-liners that seem to be all about adding more carrots to the daily menu. Turning your attention back to your own unfortunate hands, stained with what some may generously refer to as the essence of stable life, you reflect on the fact that you might just qualify as a medieval hand model, if they ever have an ad campaign for rugged outdoor enthusiasts who smell vaguely of alfalfa and ambition. As you dig through the muck, transporting it to a designated area. Hello, future fertilizer. You can't help but imagine what it would be like to boast at dinner. Ah, yes, my friends and lords, I merely deal with stable matters each day while you feast upon your roast mutton. But all joking aside, this job comes with certain rewards, like knowing that every scoop of muck might save the noble from having to breathe an air of pure chaos during his evening stroll to inspect his mighty steed, and your pride swells like a noble's ego after a favorable joust, even if you know the horses will offer you not a single pat on the back, just a swish of their tail, filled with disdain because you dared to interrupt their hay-eating marathon. At the end of the day, once the stalls are refreshed and tidy enough to host a medieval soiree, your heart fills with satisfaction and a tinge of fatigue. You lean against your pitchfork like a shepherd returning from an epic quest, while the majestic beasts flick their tails in what can only be a subtle acknowledgement of your somewhat heroic endeavors. It might be a thankless job, but it's these unsung heroes, those invisible souls, who ensure the castle's chivalry remains intact, even amidst the lingering odors of collected horse enthusiasm. Maybe there's glory in sweat and stink, after all. And just like that, as you continue to grapple with the absurdity of your role in this melodrama of medieval castle life, you chuckle softly to yourself. Who knew cleaning up after horses could give you better street cred than many a noble feast? Sweet dreams, brave soul. May your nights be filled with visions of horses and the joy of naps, without the worry of what awaits in the mornings. Chapter 21. The Canine Caper in the Castle Kitchen. Hey guys, welcome back to another cozy jaunt through the whimsical underbelly of history, where we discover the often overlooked, mildly gross, and slightly laughable lives of those invisible souls who kept medieval castles running. Tonight, we turn our gaze to a character more devoted than your best friend, and more misunderstood than an overcooked bread loaf. Meet the Turnspit Dog. Yes, you heard that right. This small, short-legged, long-bodied canine does not hold a title of nobility, but rather one of the most questionable jobs in medieval kitchens. Now, picture this. You've just woken up in 1350, surrounded by the intriguing aroma of roasting meats, mingling with the not-so-inviting smell of burnt hair and spilled ale. And before you let out a small scream about how the air feels thicker than a tankard of butterbeer, let's indulge in a couple of thought-provoking questions. Ever thought about your morning coffee made
By a dog who's literally running in circles?
or try to decide if you'd rather sit down to dinner with a puppy or your grumpy uncle who insists on reminiscing about better days? So dim the lights, snuggle into your warmest blanket, and prepare your taste buds to embark on a culinary adventure that rolls, literally, with a small hound startlingly close to a hamster on a wheel. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350 in the rustic heart of a bustling castle kitchen. The air is thick with smoke, the meat hangs tantalizingly over the fire, and your first sight is this adorable dog bouncing inside a wooden wheel, fur matted with enough grease to rival your favorite fast food item. As you watch the turnspit dog, whose name we might as well call Rotisserie Rover, you can't help but wonder, is this dog on a one-way trip to canine fame? Or has he been condemned to a life of unending exercise and questionable hygiene? Whichever the case, his eyes are focused with the seriousness of a knight preparing for battle, tongue lolling out like it's waving a flag of surrender, and paws pattering in a rhythmic dance that says, "I may not be free, but at least I'm warm." The wheel creaks as you lean in closer, listening to the lovely sound of metal gears cranking above, the heavy iron contraptions groaning with every little turn, translating his tiny exertions into the slow rotation of the succulent meats that would make any lord salivate. It's almost romantic, the way the dog runs, completely oblivious to the irony of his workout routine, thinking that he's about to win a world's fastest dog award, rather than just adequately rotating the pig currently sizzling away above him. Meanwhile, you ponder the life of a turnspit dog. What does it feel like to belong to the noble household chained to that wheel? Is there a secret dog society where they dream of escape? Perhaps they're plotting a coup involving treats and barking orders. You guys distract the cook with that pigeon over there while I hit the stop button on this godforsaken wheel. Does it ever look around and think, I used to have dreams of chasing squirrels in the yard, and now I'm a medieval version of a treadmill? And let's be honest here. Turnspit dogs are the ultimate unsung heroes of what one can only call medieval meal prep. Imagine trying to roast a massive beast without the help of this four-legged creation. You'd have a charred carcass, a disgruntled castle staff, and a very disappointed nobleman who would insist that a beef jerky dinner was not in his plans. Can you picture that conversation? "Oh, look, my dearest lady, they've forgotten the roast. Shall we bake some moldy bread instead?" As you contemplate the turnspit dog's plight, a cacophony of sounds fills the kitchen. The cook, broad-shouldered and about as graceful as a cabbage, bellows in sharp tones, his voice reverberating over the crackling flame. "Hey, you, four-legged dynamo, keep that pace. If you stop, I'll make a stew out of you." No pressure. A turnspit dog, working harder than most interns today, probably wondering why he even pulled the short straw of canine duties. Occasionally, a nearby cat peeks in, eyes glistening with mischief, plotting to set the wheel on fire, while the turnspit dog remains blissfully unaware. Just another day at work, the little guy seems to think, panting through the grease and smoke, believing somewhere deep down that he's the canine version of a marathon runner. And despite every grimy paw step inside that wheel, you can't help but admire the sheer commitment of this pup. At every turn, he faces a lesson about servitude that exceeds any ennobled knight's code. Not once does he complain about a grueling 12-hour shift. Instead, he is the steadfast companion of sizzle and smoke, who keeps the aroma of roasted goodness alive, even when the knight doesn't notice different kinds of
Heroism simmering right beneath his nose.
So, as you drift off to the sounds of culinary chaos and visions of medieval feasts, let the tales of the turnspit dog warm your dreams with a reminder that some of history's most hard-working souls were not always the ones carrying swords, but sometimes just small, furry faces running in circles. Seriously, if that's not motivation to aspire to your fullest potential, I don't know what is. Sweet dreams. May your adventures be free of wheels, grease, and unsolicited kitchen duties.
Chapter 22. The Whirlwind of the Castle Kitchen.
Hey guys, welcome back to another delightfully strange escapade through points in history even your unenthusiastic high school history teacher would have found mildly interesting. Tonight, we're diving into a corner of the medieval world more chaotic than a cat trying to catch its own shadow, namely, the bustling castle kitchen. Imagine for a moment the clatter of pots, the sizzle of meat, and somewhere in the swirling madness, a spirited turnspit dog, seemingly auditioning for Dancing with the Medieval Stars. What mention of this checkered little pup's heroic life could be more riveting? So, let's ponder a few absurd and relatable questions before we embark on this culinary quest. Ever felt as if you were running on a treadmill with nowhere to go, while your only audience consists of cats judging your every hop? Or maybe you have that one coworker who breathes down your neck when all you want is to serve up a sumptuous feast, only to realize you have no meat to roast, and several unhinged interns making helpful suggestions. So grab your favorite pillow, dim those lights, and cozy up like a medieval jester falling into a vat of pudding, because, congratulations, you've just woken up in 1350 in the heart of a castle kitchen. The air is suffused with the tantalizing aroma of roasting boar and wood smoke, mixed with the underlying notes of something suspiciously close to burnt toenails and spilled ale. And amidst the chaotic orchestra of shouty cooks and clanging pots, our four-legged hero spins tirelessly in his wooden wheel like a contestant on a reality show called Canine Cooking Battles. Now, let's take a moment to focus entirely on our turnspit dog, who, for all intents and purposes, could easily be dubbed Running Rover, or perhaps Sir Barks-a-Lot. His short legs are pedaling earnestly, as if he's about to break the world record for the most spins in a single shift. The kitchen itself is a whirlwind, a steaming cauldron of activity, with the cook bellowing commands that would make even a drill sergeant reconsider his life choices. "Faster, you pup! Feel the burn!" The little hound pauses for a hot second as you sneak a small scrap of meat from your dinner plate. After all, nobody's using it now, right? The moment his jaw snaps around the morsel, it's like watching a dog take its first plunge into a swimming pool. Unapologetically enthusiastic, yet oddly bewildered by the sudden, tasty turn of events. With gusto, he gulps down the treat and resumes his madcap exercise regimen, his tongue flapping around like a tiny flag, while your hand leaves an adorable grease smudge on his fur. If you were to lean closer, and let's face it, you probably would, you'd hear the rhythmic creaking of the wheel, melodically fusing with a turbulent stirring of boiling kettles and shouting between cooks and kitchen maids. That's when it hits you. This isn't just a dog. He's a hound with a purpose, chained not to futility, but to culinary excellence. And speaking of culinary excellence, let's dabble briefly in some behind-the-scenes kitchen dilemmas. like that awkward moment when someone accidentally drops a cow's head into the stew meant for the lords. Now, imagine the situation. The castle high-ups are expecting a lavish feast, replete with hearty offerings, while you, the humble kitchen maid, are frantically waving at Turnspit Timmy to make that pig spin faster. You can practically hear the nobles at the table grumbling about their last meal being just buttered turnip, which, let's be honest, sounds like an absolute nightmare. One of the cooks, his face glistening like a roast goose, leans over to you and says, "Do you think we could convince him to roast us a side of manners while he's at it?" Meanwhile, everyone's too preoccupied fumigating the air around the wheel to realize that the real hero is right
There, Rotisserie Rover, the noble beast who's too busy to care about such trivialities. He's got a job to do, one that doesn't allow for debate or dozing off. No mid-shift naps in his dynasty. Everywhere you look, pots clatter like a percussion section gone rogue, and the smells engulf you, almost like an enthusiastic warm hug, or perhaps a passionate chokehold as the smoke curls around your throat. It's a sensory overload, more chaotic than trying to navigate a medieval fair with only a half-eaten meat pie as local currency. "Excuse me, good sir, but do you accept this pie for entry, or perhaps an opportunity to wrestle a pig?" As you drift deeper into the kitchen's enchanting madness, you envision the camaraderie of the Turnspit dog and his fellow kitchen comrades, an unlikely gang tied by grease, chaos, and culinary ambition. There's even a lazy cat lounging on top of a stack of hay, much too uninterested in getting involved, but definitely casting a side eye When the roasts approach the point of no return.
It almost seems as if the entire kitchen has been swept into a waltz of its own, where the turns of the wheels set the pace, while culinary dreams whirl and twirl in a beautifully chaotic ballet. And as you inhale the aromatic wonders that only a medieval kitchen could conjure, you realize that perhaps the finest luxury of all, you may not have a throne, but you're in the heart of joy, laughter, and sizzling meats, zipping around like Cinderella at a ball, minus the glass slippers, but plus a jiggly slice of humor. In this kitchen, despite the grease, the heat, and that rogue cow's head, it's all in a day's work, full of life, laughter, and more than a touch of absurdity. So, as the day grows dim and the stars peek through the castle windows, may you carry the spirit of the Turnspit dog with you, embracing the chaos and laughter that life and the medieval kitchen offers, always remembering it's all about how fast you go.
Can roll with it. Sweet dreams, intrepid history explorer.
Chapter 23. Rinsing Grit and Glory at the Castle Stream. Hey guys, welcome back to our quirky dive into history that's more riveting than a two-legged race at a medieval fair. Tonight, we're washing our worries away down by a bubbling stream, where the laundress is braving the elements with the grace of a duck trying to waltz. Imagine this scene. You're nestled against the refreshing chill of the water, yet there's an unrelenting wind tugging at your tunic like an overly affectionate toddler. And guess what? The laundry day is in full swing, which means it's about to get dirtier, figuratively and literally. But before we delve further into the giddy grime of medieval laundry, let's entertain some pressing questions. Ever tried to scrub bloodstains from a shirt while simultaneously wondering if you left the oven on back home? Or perhaps you've had one of those days when it feels like you've become one with the soap, and washing yourself was less of a chore and more of an existential crisis. How does one even get a medieval laundry job? Is there a LinkedIn for peasants? What makes one candidate stand out more than the others? I am very skilled in stain removal, and my hands are well acquainted with cold water. Sounds like a winner, right? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1350, crouching beside a stream where our leading lady, let's call her Edna because we're feeling a bit cheeky today, is knee-deep in a laundry day extravaganza. Edna's world is a whimsical mix of tedious chore and gallant endurance. Picture her, a staunch laundress, sleeves rolled up and arms chapped like the landscape after a long drought, determined to unleash the hidden brilliance of heavy white linen sheets. As the brisk wind playfully tugs at her clothes, you can almost hear her muttering a medieval curse or two, because, really, laundry is the original struggle. The water is icy and clear, swirling around her knees like an indifferent ice bath, which, spoiler alert, is not the relaxing spa experience she might have dreamed of as a child. Rubbing at a particularly stubborn stain with a bar of grey soap, Edna's knuckles turn white with concentrated effort. It's as if she's wrestling with a rebellious dragon instead of a mere coffee stain. And yet, there's a bizarre charm about this grimy affair. Other women meander nearby, spreading their freshly washed clothes over the grass to dry, their laughter punctuating the air like annoying little birds flitting from branch to branch. It's a veritable symposium of medieval laundry, all the socializing with none of the detergent, before it became cool to complain about how you've lost a sock in the wash at your local laundromat. Who knew washing clothes needed a group therapy session? But let's not forget the realities of this chilly endeavor. The sound of Edna beating the linens with a wooden paddle resonates off the castle walls, echoing like the cries of disgruntled chickens. If you squint, you might almost sense the garments putting up a fight for their dignity. "We were so well ventilated just yesterday," they seem to scream as Edna wails her paddle down like a conductor possessed. And, fun fact, it's rumored that the paddle is called a beat. But frankly, we can venture into the arena of medieval humor and speculate that beat hits the nail closer to the head. Imagine the medieval laundry scene as if it's a sort of silent comedy, punctuated only by the splashes and squawks of disgruntled washing. One lady, Mabel, always with a flair for drama, accidentally kicks a rather large rock into the stream, and suddenly it becomes a game of dodgeball. "Out of the way, Edna, that rock means business." Laughter bursts forth in the chill air, creating a camaraderie amongst the women more heartwarming than a freshly baked loaf of bread. Now, let's backtrack for a moment to the washing method. You see, Edna is no mere laundress. She's the soap-slinging superhero of her time. Ever tried scrubbing stubborn stains with just a bar of rough soap while harboring an unending army of laundry? It's a bit like trying to win a dance-off with an octopus, quite messy and entirely overwhelming. Imagine shrugging off a heavy load of linen like it's a Monday morning and simply muttering, "I got this," as if life is as easy as cleaning the remnants of something, anything, off your bright white shirt. But alas, the sun beats down on Edna, who awkwardly attempts to burrow her way back into a normal routine while simultaneously contemplating life choices. Should I have invested in waterproof gloves? Is the question of the day. Yet, in small moments of respite, she spots butterflies dancing around the clotheslines like drunken little pixies. Ah, the butterflies seem to snicker. While you battle nature, we flourish. It's a strange sort of nap in the middle of chaos, spotting joy where you never anticipated finding it, like discovering an unburnt toast in the middle of breakfast. And just like that, you're transported back to the stream side, absorbing the atmosphere with every heartbeat, feeling the gentle slap of fabric against wood, and the binding sense of community around you. The world is bleak, yet hilariously refreshing, much like accidentally munching on a bitter lemon afterward. As the day rolls on, and the linens flutter in the breeze, you can't help but chuckle at Edna's plight. She's the unsung heroine of the castle, wrestling stubborn stains and miraculously producing a vibrant collection of laundry in the midst of medieval absurdity. For all the humble drudgery and backbreaking work, there's grit and glory hidden beneath every scrub and splash. Because in the grand spectrum of history, who wouldn't want to be remembered as part of a laundry revolution that turned chaos into laughter? Sweet dreams of laundry legends, dear history adventurer, Chapter 24. Flapping Linens and Fantastical Frustrations. Hey guys, welcome back to our escapades through a history that's funnier than a jester at a court wedding. Tonight, we're hanging out in a meadow where laundry hangs like the linens are auditioning for the role of society's unexpected superheroes. Picture this: long ropes strung between two ancient oak trees, swaying with rows of white linens flapping in the wind like sails on a medieval ship. Only, instead of braving the high seas, we're here to handle the gritty business of laundry day, a noble pursuit that feels more like a slapstick comedy than a heroic epic. But before we dive into the frothy suds of Edna's world, our diligent laundress, who is about to wrestle her way through a pile of linens bigger than your last life crisis, let's ruminate on some pressing questions. Ever wondered if medieval people complained about the weather on laundry day, just like we do when rain interrupts a Saturday barbecue? Or perhaps you've found yourself in a laundry situation where the stain removal kit feels like it requires a degree from Hogwarts? And what about the ultimate dilemma of shrunk laundry? Should you fold or throw everything into a basket and claim it's the latest trend? Spoiler alert, Edna is very much in that boat. Just imagine her trying to explain medieval fashion to a crowd. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1350, just outside a castle, a majestic fortress looming like an oversized sandwich in the landscape. Our heroine, Edna, stands with a satisfied grin amid a tangled battlefield of white linens, hung out to dry against a backdrop that would give even the most industrious Instagram influencer food for thought. The wind rattles the sheets, creating a symphony that rivals a cat attempting to sing in a choir. The air is filled with the unmistakable scent of lye, wet wool, and is that the river? Yes, it's probably the river, mixing in with the sort of olfactory surprises that could elevate even the most mundane minutes into a comedic scene where nature finally decides to have its say on the king's laundry policy. Let's pause for a moment and roll through the delightful absurdities of the job Edna does. Armed with just a wooden paddle, which may or may not have been fashioned from a particularly rebellious tree, she faces the greatest enemy of her time, stubborn stains. What's your arch nemesis, you might ask? Oh, blood, dirt, and that one dubious spill from last week's feast. You know, just typical stuff. You can almost picture Edna looking like a stressed-out chef at a Michelin star restaurant yelling, "We need more salt!" Only her version is closer to, "Can someone hand me the lye again? This linen isn't going to scrub itself." As the sun lazily creeps overhead, Edna scans her surroundings, droplets of water reflecting the light. Little does she know that her laundry day revolution is about to
Take a comedic turn.
The white linens, freshly washed and intricately draped, sway in the breeze like polite villagers, enthusiastically waving goodbye to their respective monarchs who just decided to levy more taxes. Now, imagine witnessing the jubilant chaos. Edna shuffling back and forth, arms flapping like an awkward bird trying its first flight. It's a symphony of flapping linens and unyielding laundry, an orchestra where the conductor is half asleep and the brass section is mysteriously represented by lower-class peasants shouting about laundry mishaps. One particularly old, stubborn sheet suddenly dances away in the wind like it's auditioning for a role in a medieval version of So You Think You Can Dance. One can only chuckle as Edna scrambles to save it, as if it held the secret to the universe, or at least the secret to maintaining her job. And just when things are going well, enter stage left, miserable weather, a particularly rambunctious gust of wind, possibly sent by a very mischievous spirit, or just the castle's eccentric lord, decides to tussle with the linens, turning Edna's chore into a dramatic wrestling match. "Those sheets are out for blood," she mutters, flooded with juxtapositions of Olympic wrestlers and anchored sailboats. As she rounds up her obstinate garments, she yelps, "You would think these linens were cursed. You think you can run away? I've seen more tenacity in a chicken trying to cross the road." In the soothing fragrance of freshly cleaned wool and the absurdity of this one-woman laundry spectacle, it dawns upon you that the reality of medieval life is often more chaotic than we'd like to admit. It's like trying to clean your apartment while a herd of children just decided to play tag inside. You never truly know what laundry day will throw at you. So as Edna triumphs, desperately tugging the rogue sheet back to its rightful place, you can almost hear the linens whisper, "We didn't sign up for this nonsense." Yet here she is, pouring her heart and soul into every scrub, every splash, and every laugh shared while navigating this tangled web of fabrics. Turns out, Laundry Day in 1350 is a clash of humor, sweat, and perhaps a dab of lie to wash it all down. And as the sun begins to set behind the castle walls, casting a golden hue on Edna's successful mission, albeit a slightly disheveled one, you can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Because if there's one thing we can learn from Edna's escapades, it's that everyone's just trying to keep their lives from unraveling like an old sheet hung out to dry. Sweet dreams, laundry legends. A bit of medieval madness,
a sprinkle of absurdity, and you'll drift off, dreaming of Edna and the misadventures that come with an honest day's labor.
Chapter 25. A Guard's Gaze and the Grim Ramble of Castle Life. Hey guys, welcome back to our whimsical stroll through history. Tonight, we're unraveling something cooler than the stone floors of a medieval castle, the fascinatingly monotonous life of the invisible souls who kept those mighty fortifications running. We're talking about the unsung heroes, yes, the castle guards. You know, the folks who stood around like ancient versions of statues, but with a bit more personality and a whole lot less Instagram validation. But before we dive into the beautifully absurd world of nighttime sentries, trust me, you're in for a flow of humor drier than a church sermon. Let's ponder some pressing questions. Ever wondered what a guard's inner monologue sounded like while staring into the abyss of a moonlit forest? Or maybe you've thought about how many times medieval guards wanted to throw their spears at birds just for something to do. What about the daily struggle between
Staying alert and fighting the irresistible urge to fall asleep right there on the battlements? Spoiler alert, it's a real challenge when the night is quieter than your last date. Yikes.
Congratulations! You've just woken up in a chilly night in 1350 A.D., perched high upon the castle's stone battlements, your back against the cold wall like a rebellious teenager trying to avoid a family gathering. Below you, the castle courtyard resembles a black and white painting, a vivid contrast of shadows intricately danced across the stones, while torches flicker like candles on a birthday cake that no one wants to celebrate anymore. The mist rolls in, an enthusiastic specter that seems to whisper secrets about the castle's long-forgotten gossip. Let's take a moment and soak in the ambience. Picture yourself as the lone sentinel, a gleaming figure wrapped in a heavy wool cloak that flaps about you in the wind like an overzealous flag. The aroma of damp stone fills your nostrils, accompanied by an ever-present hint of that mysterious medieval stew which had been simmering for centuries in the unsanitary corners of the castle kitchens. It's a symphony of smells, really, orchestrated by the neglected kitchen and your own lack of enthusiasm for whatever passed as dinner when you had the unfortunate luck of being assigned watchman duty that evening. Now, the life of a guard is, ironically, anything but exciting. You've got your trusty iron-tipped spear, your loyal companion, albeit without the charm of a loyal pup. You lean on it, your gaze fixed on the misty outline of trees in the distance, as if they're about to start talking back like an overenthusiastic therapist. It's kind of like night shift security, but without the snacks. The silence of the night stretches like an infinitely dull Netflix series, leaving you searching for something, anything to break the monotony. And, oh boy, you've got a lot on your plate. An ensemble of crickets performing, an off-key rendition of the sound of silence beneath your feet, possibly featuring an accidental karaoke with the owls hooting in a terribly offbeat rhythm. As you watch the fog encroach upon the castle walls, you can't help but wonder if perhaps this life of eternal watchfulness had turned you into an avid philosopher. To guard or not to guard, you think? considering the pressing questions of existence. You ponder the life choices that led you here on a chilly medieval battlement instead of a warm tavern with, dare you say it, a good mug of something other than stale beer. You wince a little at the thought of crushed dreams, perhaps like a fine wine turned to vinegar, and then shake your head, reminding yourself to focus. Stay alert, stay alert. It's just a branch snapping, you murmur, fighting the rising tide of shut-eye. Thinking back, you can almost hear the laughter of your comrades below, who left you up here to guard against, well, nothing. Every shadow feels like an uninvited guest crashing a party that ended 3 centuries ago. And wouldn't it make your shift 100 times more dramatic if a squirrel decided to become a shape-shifting assassin? A clever twist on the age-old "not all heroes wear capes" trope, perhaps. Suddenly, a wave of irritation washes over you. Was it really too much to ask for a bit more action? Would a rogue knight or a dragon crash the party? Instead, all you've got are the weird creaks of the castle itself and the disinterest of an overheated moon looking out for trouble. All right, you think, frustrated. If I'm to spend the night waiting for someone to waltz through the fog, I'll take a dramatic mental note when the owls start discussing their philosophy on existentialism. Then it happens. You hear it, a soft rustle in the bushes far beneath you. Your heart races, the tension rises. Is it a band of merry marauders, or is it the night's gentle laughter merely messing with your already overworked imagination? Your grip tightens on your spear, ready to face whatever or whoever crawls out into the light of day. After all, a castle guard's job is both glamorous and downright ridiculous, the ultimate blend of noble duty and absurdity. Yet as the stillness settles back around you, you realize that it's only a rabbit, perhaps as confused as you are about why its life has led it to frolic so close to a castle like yours. You can't help but chuckle. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes it's as entertaining as a court jester trying to impress someone who just wants a quiet meal. So, armed with your imagination, your iron spear, and an entire planet of thoughts meandering through your mind, you take a deep breath. Because if a guard's life is an ode to solitude, it's also a reminder that life, no matter how absurd, moves in mysterious ways, even if tonight it's just a fluffy rabbit on the cusp of a grand adventure. Now you can settle back into the soothing embrace of sleep as you navigate the tossed memories and dreams of a time where castles held secrets and guards fought phantom invaders in the quiet battle of the night. Sweet dreams, fellow time traveler. As the castle finally settles into silence, the fires dimming to embers, and the laughter of the great hall fading into distant echoes, we're left with the quiet truth of what it meant to survive a single day in the medieval world. It was a life shaped by cold stone floors, aching hands, and endless routines that never truly paused. From hauling water before sunrise to scrubbing pots long after feasts ended, survival was not heroic in the storybook sense, but it was constant, stubborn, and deeply human. And somehow, tucked between the exhaustion and hardship, there was room for small, unintentional humor, a squeaky floorboard, a rebellious onion, a stubborn pot that refused to be clean. Tonight, we honor those invisible souls, the servants, maids, cooks, and laborers whose names were never recorded, yet whose resilience held entire castles together. They endured without applause, found laughter where they could, and rose each morning knowing the day would ask everything of them again. As you lie here now, wrapped in warmth, spared from hauling buckets or sleeping on stone, take a moment to feel gratitude for the quiet miracles of the modern world. Clean water at the turn of a tap, soft beds, light that comes without flame or smoke, comfort that no longer requires endurance. Let that gratitude settle gently in your chest. The past has done its work for tonight. Its stories can rest now, just as you should. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts soften. And as sleep takes you, remember, even the hardest days can pass, and even unseen lives can leave echoes that last for centuries. Good night.